au I kanui man Hawala au nei pundi vai pi o Hawala au I kanui man Hawala au nei pundi vai pi o Ole no vau elwa mai Ahiu iwa hia no ke kua hiwi Ole no vau elwa mai Ahiu iwa hia no te tua hiwi Hiva o e na kamakua Ai lehia I no te tupuna Te hiva o e na kamakua Ai lehia I no te tupuna Puna ke halai amai No I ka vahila lea o hilave No puna te halai amai No I ka vahila lea hilave Kaina ia mai ana kapuana Kumaka kai kanaya hiwabe Kaina ia mai ana kapuana Kumaka kai kanaya hiwabe
Could the first panelists come up? Who else is on the panel with you? Who's on the panel? You? Okay. Marina? Lynn Decoite and Gabby, could you come up? Lynn Decoite and Gabby?
Testing.
Yeah. Lynn Decoite and Gabby? Is Marina on the first one?
Yes.
Hmm? Huh?
Excuse me.
I have to sit in order to be able to
That's
do it.
okay.
Yeah, no, I'm just letting you know. I thought I was going to do some flowers over there.
Yeah. There's no room for our butts and the flowers.
No.
So is he going to signal to us?
You signaled already. Please sit down. Sit down. Lynn, could you go and sit? Yeah. Please. Okay. Okay. We're about ready to begin. I'd like to ask everybody to keep silent in the audience while we're introducing people and having the panels. If you need to talk, please go outside and away from the building because we don't want to have lots of noise on the screen. Kimo, are we ready? Are we ready to go? Oh, Chivo. I'm sorry. Chivo, sorry.
Chivo, are we ready?
Sorry about that.
Are we ready?
You're going to go first. Chivo, give us a signal when you're ready. Okay.
Aloha. Aloha. My name's Bobby Patnode, and I'm the president of the Kula Community Association. Welcome to all our Kula and Upcountry community who are here, and all of those who are watching on Akaku. Tonight, we continue our 30-year-long tradition of candidate forums, so we can all be better informed and our candidates can also learn more about the constituents. I hope you enjoy it. We are mindful that this forum takes place on September 11th, a day when we remember all those who lost their lives and the courage of the heroes. We choose to honor them by taking action, being united and engaged, and holding this forum tonight. Thank you for being here, and thank you to all the candidates. Please consider joining the Kula Community Association. Joining tonight will help defray the costs of the forum and strengthens our voice. Mahalo. And now Dick Mayer, one of our founding members, will explain how the forum works.
Thank you, Bobby. My name is Dick Mayer. I'm a board member of the Kula Community Association. I want to welcome all of you and welcome you out there in YouTube and Akaku land. I'd like to go through some of the ground rules for tonight and what we'll be doing and how all this thing was put together. First, a couple of logistics issues. If you're interested in bathrooms, the building outside, you'll have to go around and you'll find them there. Refreshments, as you saw came in, are in the back, and we won't be taking any long breaks, like this is a long break to go out and get refreshments. If you need to get some, please go back and get them as you go through. We have altogether today 9 races that we'll be talking to candidates for the Maui County Council and for the state legislature. The races for the county council are what are called nonpartisan. In other words, they're not Democrats or Republicans. They run as the candidates, independent of a political party. And in the primaries, we held the primaries, and the top 2 people got through the primaries, and they're the ones who will be interviewed tonight. 2 of the races for the county council have already been decided because there was only one candidate for each of those seats. In East Maui, Shane Sinensi will be the representative from East Maui, and on Lanai, Gabe Johnson will be representing Lanai. They will not be here tonight because their races are essentially finished. One of the races, we were not able to get the candidates to come over. They had other commitments. That was from West Maui, and so we will not have that race today. But the other 6 races for the county council will be heard tonight. We will also have 3 state races. 3 state races, 1 for the state senate and 2 for the state house. They're the districts, the people who represent the eastern part of Maui Island, and also Lanai and Molokai. And we'll talk more about that perhaps later. I just want to also say there's a difference in the voting. Even though a person may say, I represent South Maui, in fact, it's all the people of Maui County who vote for that person, same way for Upcountry and for the other areas as well. And so what we have is although we have residence districts where the candidate comes from, it's really an election in front of all of the people of Maui. The questions were prepared by a committee of the Kula Community Association. We sat down for several hours, had some fun making up the questions, thinking what would be the appropriate questions. Sometimes we asked the same question to both candidates. In some cases, we asked different questions because one is an incumbent, one is a challenger. And for example, the challenger, we might like to know more about them. The candidate who is already an incumbent, we may ask them something about their record. The questions were not shared with the candidates in advance and are going to be asked by our panelists, moderators tonight. Some of the questions, candidates will be given a certain length of time. At the end of each question, the moderators will say, you have 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes, some time thing. We have a gentleman here in front, Sean Wilson, who will be holding up a yellow card when there's 15 seconds left and a red card when it's time to stop. And we ask you to stop at that time. We will not take any long breaks, as I said before. Because the panel is being televised, it will be very important for the audience to remain silent. Except at the end of a panel time, the audience may, if they wish, applaud. We'd rather not have applause during the panels themselves. Some candidates have left their brochures on the table in the back over there, and you can go through those and pick up those up that you would like to read more about. We're on a very tight schedule, and we're going to try to keep this thing going very smoothly with short breaks between each of the panels. I want to especially thank a lady who's really come to our help. It's not cheap to put on a forum like this. There's a lot of people involved, technical people from Akaku, sound people, other needs that we have to get the equipment here that you'll all be seeing. And so consequently, I'd like to thank Deborah Rybeck, who's really a public citizen. Deborah gave a major contribution for this event to take place, and it's been a blessing to all of us to have her support. I just want to give you a quick update on the election itself. The ballots will be mailed out about October 18th. In other words, about 5 weeks from right now, and should be mailed back in time so that the election people in the county clerk's office get them before they close the election on November 5. So don't wait until November 4th and think it may get back. It may not. There's also some places in the county, 5 of them, where you'll be able to vote in person. One is in Wailuku at the McWayne Community Center on Lower Main Street, off Lower Main, in Hana, in Lahaina, Molokai, and Lanai, for those who wish to mail in person, vote in person, rather than sending in a mail ballot. If you have any questions, you can call the Maui County Clerk's office. If you have any questions or concerns regarding you didn't get a ballot or questions about the district that you're in or you've moved, any of those kind of questions, the county clerk's office should be able to answer it. Without any further ado, I'd like to turn it over to our moderators to begin the first panel. And I thank you.
Hi, my name is Marina Riker, and I'm a member of the Kula Community Association. And next to me is Chuck Carletta. He's a board of the association, and we're going to begin with the state senate seat for Upcountry Maui, East Maui, Molokai, and Lanai. And our folks who are running are Miss Lynn Decoite and Mr. Gabby Macaraeg. And Mr. Macaraeg, we're going to start with you first, and this is your first time running. Can you tell us why you want to be a state senator and how your service will differ from the incumbent? You have 2.5 minutes.
So one of the biggest things, especially as an individual who's in the community, is there's always a question of why. Why are things the way they are in regards to housing, in regards to cost of living, in regards to how there's a lot of red tapes for the community in regards to getting what they need, meaning whether there's a permit or... So my biggest thing is to kind of encourage individuals in office to expedite, because it affects the community in so many ways. I've been in so many barbecues and so many get-togethers where I have friends and families who are leaving the island. And to me, that is unacceptable. And yet I see a lot of individuals who are outsiders, who are coming in and grasping the community's own resources, which to me is another thing that's unacceptable. Why are these things happening? Why does this happen in several ways, and yet it's happening for decades? For me, I'm not here to point fingers or anything, but I am here to be as transparent as possible. That's another thing, transparency. The communication between the community and individuals in office are very far from in between. It's very close. It's hard to get any information nowadays, and that to me is unacceptable too. The community needs answers, and also when a decision is made, there should be a reasoning behind that decision, not because I said so, but because these are the facts, these are the truth, and this is how it's going to help the community. That's what I'm looking forward to. That's what I'm looking forward to, open up the doors and make the community more aware of decisions that are being made behind closed doors, or if they're not being made behind closed door, a bit more productive or a bit more robust, I guess you can say, in regards to the information that's being passed. How can the community get this information? We are so busy with our life. I got 2 jobs just to support me and my wife. Imagine if I had a kid, more worse. So that's where I'm coming from.
Thank you. And now, Ms. Decoite, please give us an honest self-assessment of your strengths and weaknesses as they relate to the state Senate position that you are seeking.
Thank you for the question. So my strengths has been listening. I think the biggest challenge we have is most lawmakers do not listen. They have a hard time comprehending, and they have a hard time understanding what the challenges are in those districts. We have always had, my office, an open door policy. We run e-blasts every Friday on issues that are happening throughout the county, throughout the state. The areas of which we are challenged to work with is we work with 24 other senators in the Senate, each one representing different areas of urban Honolulu. So our challenges, and I believe the weakness for that side, is helping them to understand the needs of Maui. The needs of Maui, the needs of Molokai, the needs of Lanai are all different. So you have to be in the public, in the community, in cases where you have challenges like tonight where several lawmakers have commitments elsewhere, you have to make sure you have representation. Transparency has always been there. Within the state legislature, you can literally weigh in on everything. Everything's recorded. You can remote testify. You can check records of whether or not lawmakers are there, they're present. What's the status of how they voted and what position they have taken? I believe that having the strength to make sure information, whether I like it or not, is given to this community, will be given to this community. I don't agree with some of the information that I put out there, but as long as it's information, they're not soliciting or asking for a fundraiser, we share that information. I believe that is our biggest strength. Along with making sure when constituents call and they ask about a problem, I may not know the answer to that problem, but I can tell you, I will direct you to that individual, that department, that state agency to help you. When it came down to what was going on, even on the west side and what we had upcountry, we made sure the resources were put on the table. The department heads were there and they were present. When it comes to weaknesses, I said weaknesses come about when you are not listening to your community. And I will tell you this, we have listened to this community and we've always given a seat at the table. So thank you. Mahalo.
Ms. Decoite, the next question is on diversification. What industries do you envision will help Hawaii keep the next generation employed and able to afford the cost of living here in Hawaii? You have 2 minutes.
So I chair the Committee of Energy, Economic Development, and Tourism, and I sit on the Ways and Means Committee. For so long we have depended on tourism. And when I took on the committee and I looked at the different departments that are there, you have an industry of creative industry. And our challenge has been, tourism has always been about marketing Hawaii. I don't believe that we need to continue to market at that level. I think we need to isolate down on what needs to be marketed, but within those departments is the creative industry. The creative industry, what I have seen, has been able to be infused not just into Maui, but Molokai and Lanai, as well as the state. What they have provided was they have provided an opportunity for the communities to tell their story through film, and they have provided high salary wages. If you look at most of these people, and maybe most of them may not have an education, because a lot of them are hands-on, they like to be more involved in what their communities are doing. They own their homes and they own their land. And they're helping their kids to own that as well. I think that is a major change, game changer for most of us, because everybody else is telling the story of Maui. They're telling the story of Molokai and Lanai. I said the story needs to be told and marketed by the people who live in that district. And I believe we need to change that, along with making sure our kids that we're wanting to educate have on time to also enjoy. In other words, football, basketball, baseball, and to make sure if they are healthy, they are enjoying what they're doing, they will educate themselves. So I'm wanting to move more in that direction to give diversity. And I think these are just some of the options that are on the table, aside from just trying to value add some of the challenges we have here, Upcountry Maui as well as Molokai. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Macaraeg, we have the same question for you on diversification. What industries do you envision will help Hawaii keep the next generation employed and able to afford the cost of living on Maui? You have 2 minutes.
So the biggest things for me right now definitely is, like Lynn said, is tourism, because tourism here is big, right? So how can the locals, how can the community actually grasp that? And we have individuals who actually own short-term rentals out here on Maui, who are actually capitalizing on the resources here on Maui. So how can we actually encourage our community, encourage the future to actually learn how financially to grasp that and capitalize on a small business aspect? That's one thing. Another thing is education. In order for these individuals, these youngsters coming from high school, can actually grow into that, is to actually have the resources where they can actually learn finances, learn small businesses, get the resources locally so that they can actually utilize that here on Maui, rather than actually moving out of Maui to actually go to the mainland and learn these skill sets. That's one of my biggest things. So I work for the county of Maui, and one of the biggest things I've noticed there is that we have so many positions in our government, in our local government in itself, and yet they are being filled by foreigners out there. I believe that we can provide more resources to the community that will allow them the education, that will allow them the skill sets to fill this position, rather than going out and outsourcing these. So that's one of my biggest things right now, is getting these individuals, the youngsters, getting the new generations to actually be skilled and educated to actually have that skill set to fill these positions and provide to the community at itself.
Thank you. And we're going to start with you again, Mr. Macaraeg, for our next question, which is on affordable housing. Maui's median home price has hovered for nearly 2 years at $1.2 million. And that's nearly 30 times higher than our per capita income in our community. What legislation would you propose or repeal to bridge the gap between wages and rising housing costs? You have 2 minutes.
So that goes back to actually having individuals be able to financially grasp and actually get that opportunity. So one of the biggest things is helping the community first and foremost to actually receive those jobs, receive those high-paying jobs that can actually pay for those high-income homes. Actually, in reality, those homes should be affordable in so many ways, because right now I believe that the affordability is actually with the contractors are pretty much almost diminished due to the fact that when we actually requested for the housing to be developed 50% or more in regards to affordable housing, it was harder for contractors to actually bid on those. So our biggest thing right now is to actually get back to that kind of concept and work together with contractors to actually build more affordable housings for the community and allow the locals, allow the community to be able to financially support that idea and continue on to actually providing to their own kids and more so their own generations to come. So that's one of the biggest things where financially, it should be grasped with the contractors and grasped with the individuals who are involved in that, how do I say, the affordable housing, and also where we can actually give back to them at that point.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask the same question, which is Maui's median home price has hovered for more than 2 years at $1.2 million, which is nearly 30 times our per capita income. What legislation would you propose or repeal to bridge the gap between wages and rising housing costs? And you also have 2 minutes.
Thank you. You know, I don't believe there's a legislation that can fix that. I think the only thing that can fix it is to get the jobs, and it's to get the high-paying jobs. It's to not set the child, or in this case, the student graduating, set up for failure. It's to get them into the technology sector. It's to understand that you have a market that is continuing to grow. As long as this market continues to grow and the price of land is this expensive, which is why I lean towards creative industry, which I will lean towards vocational, technical, where our kids go in 16, 18-month into technical jobs that places them with those high-paying jobs. If you look into the creative industry market, you have an individual which has just about every different type of job that is there, from marketing to producing to directing to setting up. And they move along and they scale up. Between those jobs and being able to then diversify on marketing value added, you know, it is where state and county, one is to figure out the permitting process, one to lower down some of the challenges on the delay of that process, which is why when we first came out, it was about trying to assess what is maximum capacity. If you continue to build into an area with the limited amount of resources, you never be able to address or drive legislation. It's the market that will drive the affordability. And we know that the affordability in some cases, and if you take an individual that maybe has lost a loved one, and they need to substitute their income, how do they also stay? And they want local, and they've been here a long time. It's really about everybody. It's about this community. And if we cannot get the high-paying jobs in that type of industry, we're literally stuck with no affordable housing. And I don't, like I said, don't believe legislation will change that. It would be a matter of more whether or not will you enforce that legislation if that legislation occurs. Thank you.
Ms. Decoite, this is another question for you. Your multi-island district has multiple transportation issues. The Hana Road, ferry service, and airline service. I'm sure you're well familiar with those. Describe what you can do to accelerate the resolution to these transportation issues. 2.5 minutes, please.
Thank you. I think that's the biggest challenge you have for Molokai and Lanai. And again, you have a single airline carrier. You got to figure that the smallest airlines really is the ones that don't make money. These airlines have been dependent upon their corporate airline to subsidize. They barely balance all. We've had several small airlines that have operated between the islands of Molokai, Maui, more so Hana, and Lanai. In some areas, you have essential air service. The challenge has always been trying to solicit an airline that is willing to come. So I've met with just about every airline, and the last airline that I've met with is actually here in Honolulu that is trying to get DOT compliancy. Moku'oleli's airline, as of today, balances out at about $114 one way. Pacific Charter, who is standing by waiting, also does not have a cleared hangar to go and major hurdles that they need to come over. Their round trip to and from an island like Molokai, Lanai, which actually Lanai is actually higher, will run you about $346. The subsidy within that needs to occur needs to be that an airline that has 14 registered flights, if those flights are registered, you will never have the opportunity to have an essential air service subsidy, which is why Lanai just got one, because theirs had dropped down, which opened up. The subsidy on the sad side went to Moku'oleli, which then grounded their aircrafts because of challenges with the landing gear, which happy to know that they needed to put it back up to snuff. So the opportunity to look at everything from ferries are on the table, expedition, the conversations we've had with Jim Coon's guys is that they will never take that through the Pailolo. The other issue is we also did a study from Kahului to Hana. Conversation I had earlier with DOT has always been, if one of those bridges go out, do we have the capability or capacity to mold or cast the bridge? We have some, which I'm told one is actually sitting in Honolulu. Do we take that type of technology when those bridges, as we know, will eventually go, because we know we cannot do the Kaupo route. So those are some of the things I want to visit. As you know, we use Hana and East Maui heavily, but at the same time to make sure we streamline the pouring of people that are just inundating that area and impacting those roads. So those are some of the things that we are looking at as of today. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Macaraeg, same question. Your multi-island district has multiple transportation issues. The Hana Road, ferry service, and airline service. Describe what you can do to accelerate the resolution to these transportation issues. 2.5 minutes.
Okay, so one of the biggest things that I've learned is to always assess the situation, right? And figure out what the downfalls are at. And just from the experience of the community's aspect, in my experience, is that there are not that many airlines that provide that service. So why can't we go out and actually look for any businesses who are interested in that kind of service to provide here on Maui? And so one of the biggest things is also, why can't the county in itself actually do a trial, whether it's the ferry trial, where we can have ferries come and go, provided by the county in itself, and then go from there. So there are ways to actually figure out, because if we're always stagnant on the situation and always just adapting to the problem, it doesn't make sense at that point. We're supposed to progress. We're supposed to figure out the issues. So if the airlines in itself cannot provide the services to these islands, Molokai and Lanai, and even Hana in itself, then why can't we have other businesses come and try and provide that? So, but first and foremost, I always look at the community first. Can the community, can our county provide that service in itself? Can we actually do some trials to actually do a so-called beta test and see how that outcome comes out so that the community can see for themselves in regards to that system? Does that system work? Does that system provide the services that the community needs? And so that's my thing where why can't we as the county do that? So we should be looking, and not only that, we shouldn't just be deciding we shouldn't be deciding ourselves. We should actually send out that information and have the community chime in, give suggestions, because I tell you what, I've seen people actually out there who I work with who don't have a degree, but they are smart and they have great ideas. So that's my take, is why don't we put it back to the community? Why can't we provide that service locally and see how it goes? See how that system works, and then we keep on adapting and progressing from there.
Thank you very much.
That was the last question for the panel. Thank you both.
Thank you. I was on a roll. No.
Join us for TMDR, weekdays at 7 and 10 p.m. and midnight on Cable Channel 55. TMDR gives you the things you need to know, headline news from throughout Maui County. Join host Chivo Cheng Johnson Monday through Thursday and Patty Lee for our Aloha Friday edition. Join us weekdays for TMDR, the Maui Daily Report, at 7, 10, and midnight on Akaku, Cable Channel 55.
1, 2, 3, go. Hey, Maui, don't miss the boat. Do yourself a favor, get out and vote. I said, hey, Maui, don't miss the boat. Do yourself a favor, get out and vote. Yeah.
Once again, elections loom large on the horizon. Election Day, November 5th, will be here sooner than you think. So get out there and exercise your right to vote. And don't forget to tune into Akaku channels 53, 54, and 55 on election night to enjoy our live election coverage. That's Tuesday, November 5th, starting at 7 p.m. Please make your voices heard.
Good evening. Our second group of good people here. Let me just start off by saying, please, hello, please hold your applause. And I was guilty of applauding myself, so please hold all applause until after. Thank you all for being here tonight and engaging in this very exciting time we have. We have, as it turns out, Ms. Kama will not make it tonight. She's ill, so we're going to have to pick on Ms. Kamekona. You will have nice. 2.5 minutes. The first question.
Introduce us.
Oh, excuse me. I'll introduce myself. I'm Douglas Sheehan. I'm with the Community Association, obviously, and Heather Mueller over here.
I'm Heather Mueller, and I'm also on the board for the Kula Community Association.
So, your first question, ma'am, is what do you feel passionate about in related to politics? What are your personal priorities for improving our council's operations? You have 2.5 minutes.
Thank you for that question, Doug. First and foremost, I would like to say I think protocol and common courtesy allows me to introduce myself. So my name is Lee Kamekona. I am running for the Kahului residency seat for the Maui County Council. I am a retired 22-year Navy veteran whose leadership qualities of dignity, respect, discipline, accountability, and transparency have given me that leadership quality, coupled with the fact that as a single mother of 7 children, having to foster effective communication to allow me to listen, to hear, and to be able to problem solve with my children. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of background of who I am before they start grilling me. But I do like to thank the Kula Community Association for allowing us to be here this evening. So mahalo. Take it away, Doug, again.
Okay, Heather, are you going to do this?
Well, I can certainly ask the second question.
What happened to the first one? I never answered, did I?
Yep.
So can you repeat it?
Yes. Okay. What do you feel passionate about? What are your personal priorities for improving our council's operations?
2.5 minutes.
First and foremost, the most important issue for me is affordable housing. We need to be able to allow our residents to afford housing, but in doing that, they need livable wages. And livable wages is something that our state legislators can determine. So I would like to sit at the table with them to see what it is we can do to provide those livable wages, bring in the industries that are necessary to make those livable wages available to our residents, and then the housing will come. So again, housing is the most important, affordable housing is the most important. However, I do know that water is an issue when it comes to affordable housing. As Jeff Stuffelmean said, the director of the water department, we don't have water for affordable housing. Say what? You don't have water for affordable housing. However, there are many projects that are in the planning stages for luxury development. What happened to taking care of our people? What happened to putting them first? So you know, I know you know, water is a shortage here in Kula also. Your water meter list has been in effect since 2003. What has the Water Department and Council and the administration done to rectify that situation? So housing and water, hand in hand, coupled with livable wages. So mahalo for that question, Doug.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Kamekona. This question has pretty much already been answered, but maybe you'll think of a new way to kind of look at it. So the question is, you and your opponent running for the Kahului Council seat both claim to be housing advocates. So please give us your program to make a difference. Describe how you may be different from each other, from your opponent, and please use specific examples, and you do have 2.5 minutes.
Thank you for that question, Heather. Yes, my opponent and I do have affordable housing as one of our issues. With affordable housing, what I would like to do is provide a legislation that allows county council during budget session to utilize possibly bonds in order to deal with infrastructure that goes along with housing. So providing bonds that the council can approve utilizing the credit that they have, I think will take the cost burden off of developers, and that in turn takes the cost burden off of our renters and our housing salespeople. So mahalo for that.
All right.
Hold your applause, please.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, the next question for you is, all the cesspools are supposed to be converted. How can the county help residents with small lots as are found in much of Kahului and Wailuku? You'll have 1.5 minutes.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Doug. The question is, how is the council able to assist residents who own small lots with cesspools?
That's correct. We're kind of in a bind. We're going to be having a law. I think it's 2050. If I'm, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry.
2052.
Huh?
I think it's 52.
50. Anyway, so the cesspools are supposed to be converted into septic tanks, and a lot of lots are very small, and to put a septic tank would be very difficult for residents. And so we're wondering if the county will be able to help residents with these small lots, and if this is something that would interest you if you got onto the council.
So thank you for that question, Doug. And yes, I would support any kind of legislation that would provide some kind of subsidy to any of our residents and all of our long-term residents in order to help keep them here. Whether it means providing for a job, providing for housing, whatever the council and administration can do to provide for that, I would be in support of making legislation for that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, this question, you're going to need about 8 hours, but you only have 2 minutes. And this is the question. Homelessness has been increasing in Kahului. How would you balance the ability of the county to address this issue with the problems of the homeless people? And more, what are things that are working and not working? What is one policy that you would advocate, and what should be stopped that is not working? 2 minutes.
Thank you, Heather, for that question. As an advocate for our houseless community, the one thing that really needs to be changed as far as the narrative goes is our houseless are not drug abusers and substance abusers only. There's many reasons in why houselessness has come upon them. So I ask that you please do not be judgmental in that part. As far as providing for our houseless community, what I would look to is the version of a pu'uhonua. A pu'uhonua is a sacred place of refuge. Yes, there is a pu'uhonua Onene, which is located on Hana Highway and Airport Access Road. That model is not a model that I would advocate for. It is not a boot camp where people with different anxieties, disabilities, and whatever the case may be for the reason for them being there should not be put under one roof and have to deal with each other along with trying to deal and heal themselves. What I would look to is a model of a Kauhale project. A Kauhale project which also allows our houseless community to be safe, feel safe, also have a place that they can put their belongings without having to worry about somebody coming at night while they're sleeping trying to steal from them or even trying to kill them. So the Kauhale project would have little, kind of like what the King's Cathedral has on Pu'unene and Kuehilani, those little models that they have. It's some of following a project like that where you have an individual living space, but you have a common kitchen area, you have a common garden area, and you have a common area as far as showers, bathrooms, laundry, and that kinds of thing. And the buy-in to that is whatever your expertise is, if you're a gardener, if you're a chef, you give back to that community, and that also helps in healing towards transitional housing. So, thank you. Sorry.
You did very well. Thank you.
That's great. Okay, the last question is going to be, you're going to enjoy it. What question would you have liked us to ask you that we obviously didn't?
Really, I think it's more the community and what the community wants to ask me, not what I want the community to ask me. The community needs to be able to feel that their voice means something and it matters, and that somebody's willing to listen to them and take their voice forward. So I don't have a specific question that I would have liked you to ask, but I would like to know if there's any more questions you guys may have.
So you'd be available for questions?
Always. Just talk to her.
And there's one more little thing we're going to ask you.
You said that was the last one.
I know, I lied. What would you have liked to have asked Ms. Kama if she were here?
You're putting me on the spot with that one.
You can take 15 minutes.
Please provide any kind of documentation or legislation that shows your time in council has benefited your constituents and the residents of Maui County.
Very good. Thank you.
Very good.
So I'd like to mahalo again Kula Community Association for allowing all of us to be here, provide our input. Good luck to all my fellow candidates. Again, my name is Lee Kamekona. If you'd like to know more about me, go to my website, caroleekamekona.com. I have FB, IG, TikTok. Again, I ask for your support and your vote in November. Mahalo. Good night.
Thank you.
I currently live in Wailuku. I came to Maui to work with the progressive members of the council. I have been dedicated to environmental issues and helping people through government for most of my career. It's working for nonprofits and working for governmental entities. I tell you, what I did today is something that I wanted to just shows me how I live my life. So today I went to the ethics board, and I had the pleasure of testifying on behalf of Gina Young. You all know Gina as a past president. She had some issues with the ethics commission because my opponent had challenged her appointment to the East Water Authority. We've seen this over and over again where people who take money from big developers, luxury hotels, will delay our progress. The voters voted to have this water authority implemented, and then the board nominated Gina Young unanimously. Now, that should be enough for the story, should end there. I should not have had to go on there today to testify in support of her. I'm sure that outcome will come out on the right side. That's whatever I've done since I started my career. I started at the Texas Ethics Commission, where I prosecuted corrupt politicians and I enforced election laws. That's one of my passions, and I know that it rings true here in Maui. It rings true here in Hawaii. We need to clean up our elections and hold our politicians accountable.
Thank you. Next question is for Ms. Lee. You've been in office a while and have made many decisions. When have you made a decision you regretted, and how would you do it differently in the future? You have 2 minutes.
That's a very good question. I don't recall, making a decision I regretted necessarily, but I did make decisions that were very troubling for me, with difficult decisions. Like in my first term, I was the only person, besides Wayne Nishiki, who fought the extension of the runway. And the reason why I did that is because I felt already in the 90s that there was an over-dependence on the visitor industry. And I knew I would have a lot of criticism. Of course, all the unions and everybody was against me for doing that. And I was actually not made part of the majority as a result of my actions on the runway. But today, it almost seems that it didn't make a difference. It really didn't make a difference, because we still went through all of the visitors that came. They kept coming, regardless of the length of the runway. But on principle, I felt it was the right thing to do at the time. But as I reflect back, I don't see where it made much of a difference.
Thank you.
Ms. Lee, I have the next question for you. We are sure you have additional high priority items that you will try to implement. To get them, you may have to cut some parts of the county budget. Please discuss the programs and county operations that you want to add, and please indicate what items you might want to cut or reduce in order to fund these programs. You have 2.5 minutes.
Well, first of all, I would be very reluctant to cut any program at this point. I believe that there are sufficient resources. We just have to go after them. I'm proposing that we redo our entire grants management system to where it is similar to the University of Hawaii. The UH system generates over $500 million a year in grant funding. And much of it comes from the federal government. So it's a very, very consistent and reliable source of money. I feel we can do the same and not be in competition with UH. because the monies that we would be applying for would be for infrastructure primarily, water, sewer, roads. So those are the kinds of things that I believe we could receive monies from grants, and the monies that we use for it right now could be used for other programs. So that's the way I'm looking at how to spend money in the future, create a new revenue source, rely less on the visitor industry, and when we get into the UH model of grants management, we will not only receive more money on a regular basis, but we will create a lot of new jobs. And that's what I'm looking for, and the training can come from the University of Hawaii. So that's one thing I'm very strongly supporting, and I believe that my colleagues support that proposal as well. Another thing that I have proposed is an arson squad. We need to prevent future fires. We need to do more in the area of prevention. We have a situation with the fire department where there is one investigator. We need a whole unit dedicated to fire prevention. And there's so much more we can do. So the arson squad and fire prevention unit is what I am proposing. I also believe that my council members are strongly supportive of that. That's one thing you have to do when you're on the council. You have to be able to work with everybody else. Regardless of your own ideas, there are times when you're going to have to compromise with other people, because the council consists of 9 people. And so that's a skill that's very important in any council member. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. Mr. Forrest, we are sure you have additional high priority items that you will try to implement, and to get them, you may have to cut some parts of the county budget. How are you going to support those programs that you want and cut the budgets for the things that to get the money you need to support those programs? You have 2.5 minutes.
Thank you for that question. Part of my campaign is a big emphasis on our tourism industry and our hotels. Right now, our hotels are not paying enough to our county, and they're taking more than they're giving back. So if you look at my website, you'll see that I often say we need to use all the powers of the county council to help our citizens here. A big part of that is property tax. So I would increase our revenue by significantly raising property taxes on hotels. Absolutely no raising taxes on our local people, but the hotels need to be paying more. Now, ultimately, that money would go into funds like the Affordable Housing Fund. Ultimately, it could also fund housing for their actual workers. So increasing funding is right in front of our face. We need to change record profits into record wages. There are surplus programs at the county. There is I think our county has had an auditor audit each division. We need to follow those recommendations. It comes with the territory of several of our community plans and a lot of the research that we do. What happens is our county pays hundreds of thousands of dollars for plans, and we never implement them. So I would say what we need the most is new leadership that will actually implement the plans and make the tough decisions that will protect our county from wildfires, from poverty, from homelessness. Chair Lee talks about the arson squad. I would want to reallocate more funds to those homeless people and the mentally ill people that might be more often than not starting these fires, and also just the homeless people that are so frustrated with the system we've created that puts priorities of our hotel industry over the livelihoods and the health of our actual citizens. So I do feel like that could be a good idea, but I would rather treat the problem rather than the symptoms.
Thank you.
Okay, I have another question for you, Mr. Forrest. Much of Maui's domestic water originates from wells in your council district namely Navaeha. How do you feel about large quantities of water from your Wailuku residential district going to new developments in South Maui? Are there limits that you might impose on future transfers? You have 2 minutes.
Okay, this is a really important issue for me. I do believe that we need to restrict water use by hotels also. The fountains, the green lawns, that all needs to go. We need to also raise the water rates for the biggest users. They're the biggest users, but you could also just say that they're the biggest wasters. So by raising the water rates on the hotels, you're going to incentivize them to use less water. So we have to send them less. But you're also going to raise money again that we can put in the funds, and that money can, I would put almost all of our money to the Affordable Housing Fund. There's a big difference in, we don't have political parties in this race. What you have is two groups of people. One group is funded by the developers, and one group is not. The perfect example for this question is the luxury home development in Wailea, and that is the developer called Ledcor. And Ledcor has paid donations to basically the opponents of the Ohana candidates or the Kanaka movement. All of this is public record. You can see it for yourself. I have here, over her career, we have $54,000 donated by luxury developers. All this in red, you see the red dominant? Those are donations from people who aren't here on Maui. These are out of Maui contributors, and that I think tells you the story of people's priorities. And the easiest thing that you can do is to sign the Our Hawaii Pledge. You can also give your money back. I think if you look at my campaign financing, I have about $3,000 in my coffers here. We have people here, my opponent probably has 50,000, 20,000, I'm not quite sure. I have, Yuki Lei Sigimura has 100,000. You don't need that much money, and that, what it really does is create the impression that something is wrong. I'm not saying that something is wrong and they're corrupt, but it creates that impression with our community, and that's not what we need right now.
Thank you. Ms. Lee, I'm going to ask you the same question. Much of Maui's domestic water originates from your council district. How do you feel about large quantities of water from your Wailuku residential district going to new developments in South Maui? Are there limits that you might impose on future transfers? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. And you know what? I'm going to answer the question on water and not try and discredit anyone. That's not me. Okay, so yes, we have limited water in Wailuku, in central Maui. Our biggest aquifer, Iao Aquifer, has a sustainable yield of 21 million gallons per day. And we're close up to that limit. We have some water in Waikapu, but we have about maybe 4 to 6 million in Kahakaloa. But the trouble is the distance with Kahakaloa. So as far as South Maui, most of you know that their water comes from central Maui. And it appears that there's a gap when I was off the council and I was director of housing for 8 years, and then I actually retired and then came back. So what I'm saying is during the time I was gone, Wailea 670 was approved, and some of the larger McKenna projects were approved. So I can't say for sure where their source of water is coming from. It's probably South Maui, but did they have water meters prior to when me coming back to the council? I don't know. I can't answer for them because I don't know where their source is. They could have a source other than taking more from the aquifer, from the Iao Aquifer. I can't answer that for sure. But all I can say is we have tons of water in East Maui, underground. I'm not talking about stream water. I'm talking about groundwater. And love to talk further about that if I had more time, but this gentleman is telling me to stop.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. Ms. Lee, would you ask Mr. Forrest a question? And after he answers, you will be able to make a half-minute rebuttal. You have 2 minutes to ask the question.
I really have no questions for him. It's been a very contentious situation with all the forums we've gone to, and rather than, create any kind of argument or anything like that, I prefer not to. If he wants to make comments, that's up to him. But I'm here to work with you, to learn from you, and to speak with you. I'm not really interested in him.
Thank you. Mr. Forrest, you have the same question. 2 minutes to ask it and half a minute for a rebuttal.
You want me to ask a question, or you want me to answer a question?
I want you to ask the question.
I ask this question every time because it's very important to me. It's very important to our community. And I think that voters need to be informed. Being an informed voter includes looking up voting histories. It looks at what issues you actually support, which people you don't support, how you've acted over the last 30 years. She's been a council member for 16 years.
What's the question?
He has 2 minutes.
Thank you. And a big part of what really matters to local people in Hawaii, and we've seen it all over the news, is campaign finances. Where do you get your money, and what influence does that have over your vote? I think it's extremely important. And the way that you get people not to talk about it is to be like the other people. Don't take the money. So my question is, after all of this, then you know that people don't like it when you take money from Ledcor, the developer in Wailea. You have $54,000 of your career that you've taken. 80% of that is from people not in Maui County. So why do you have to take money from outside interests to run your campaign? And will you sign the Our Hawaii Pledge saying that you won't take donations?
Campaigns cost a lot of money. He talks about $50,000. $50,000 over 30 years? Ooh, okay. What we have to do, if we want to have or run an effective campaign, you have to buy a lot of mailers and flyers and things you give away and things like that. Radio ads, printed ads, social media ads, all of those things cost a lot of money. And, I'm sorry that people don't want to invest in him, but people want to invest in me. And for good reason. I have a track record, unlike him.
He has a rebuttal.
Do you have a rebuttal?
And how long do I have?
Half a minute.
Okay. So importantly, 54,000 is just from modern records from 2018. Okay, that is a lot different than 30 years. Also, let's talk about the private water the private water company that got a hearing and their bill got passed out. The private investment company. If I was on the council, they would not come to my office with such a bill. If I'm in the council, donors will not come to me with $2,000 donations because they know that I will not take them. There are people at the Capitol who have signs on their doors that say, "Do not bring your gifts to me. I refuse that." And that's the kind of council member I will be. I will be a council member for the people and not for the developers. I'm not anti-development, by the way. I'm just anti-development in the corruption that it brings along with it, so that development isn't for the people. And we've had enough of that on Maui.
Thank you.
Yeah, that concludes it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Good work. Oh.
Did you know Akaku offers free monthly PSA public service announcement production services for Maui Nui nonprofits? Agencies can record 30 or 60-second messages with a 30-minute studio reservation. Share your events, information, or news. You'll find details on our website, akaku.org, under Services, or by calling 808-871-5554. Record your free PSA at Akaku.
All Maui, all the time, anywhere you go. Maui Stream for Maui lovers. An all-new mobile app for your phone. Watch Maui's community channels live in HD. Find your favorite programs with custom playlists. Submit your own videos. Listen to KAKU 88.5. Available now on the App Store and Google Play. Maui Stream. 3 islands, 1 stream.
Next candidate here. My name is Kyle Ellison. I'm the Executive Director of the nonprofit Malama Kula.
And I'm Sarah Tekula, Executive Director of the Kula Community Watershed Alliance.
There are 2 Kyles who are involved in this round right now. Unfortunately, only one of them could be here tonight. Kyle Yamashita cannot be here. And we've just learned that Rita Ryan is sick.
She's sick.
So I guess she cannot be here either. But we do have Dan Johnson with us. Thank you, Dan, for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
So if you're ready, we are going to, if Dan, you're ready. Our first question here is, why do you want to take Kyle Yamashita's seat in the legislature? You have 2 minutes.
Right. So my name is Dan Johnson. I was born and raised here on Maui. 4 generations now with my kids here. This is my home. It's the only place I have ever lived and intend to ever live. As the cost of living gets more and more out of reality on Hawaii, Maui specifically, I think we need more politicians, especially in the legislative branch, that are voting and creating incentives that are for the best interest of the people who live here, and creating more paths to home ownership, incentives for small business, and encouragement for activity to be on Maui, also for manufacturing or any kind of production, food, agriculture, for that not to be brought in, so we're not 90% reliant on imports. To the question of why I'm running for this specific seat, I went to UH Manoa in finance, and my opponent also is on the finance committee. I think I would quite easily fit right into there. I've been working as a project manager for a general contractor, and I've done state projects and public works, and that's really what opened my eyes to some of the unnecessary costs of construction and housing, and it's just quite honestly stacked to be in the interest of large companies, big corporations, and stuff like that, where it's difficult for smaller people to operate the way our state is run. So my incentive to run is for my family, for my children, so that when they have that $1.2 million median household, that's ridiculous for a purchase price to get in there. So we need to create more incentives for Maui residents.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'll be asking your next question. We're interested in your knowledge of what it takes to be a legislator. What do state legislators do when they are in session? What do you do when it's not in session? You have 1.5 minutes.
Sure. So the legislature is pretty much the purse of the state. We control when money is given to the budget, and it's a huge arm on how that gets put into place. Another thing is we're also in the legislature in charge of any kind of rules, regulations, laws, and social issues as well that are in the state's responsibility outside of the federal government. So those are things that the state legislator is responsible for. So in the process, are you asking just a general, more logistical question of what the job looks like?
Your understanding of what the job looks like.
Okay, my understanding. Yeah, so being an outer island resident, I would have to fly over to Oahu when they're in session, which is the first 4 months of the year, and then either fly out and back every day, which is something I've been used to when I've managed projects on another island. But then when we're in session, we go from taking the governor's proposed budget, making our amendments, deciding what our community needs, and bringing in all of this forum, this is why we're having a forum like this. So it's sad we don't have a lot of our incumbents showing up to hear from the community. But we take our input from the community, and then we respond in action by creating legislation for the things that people need.
Thank you.
All right, next question. Thank you very much. What can the Ledge do to improve the situation in your Upcountry district? You have 2 minutes.
Ooh, can I have 10? So a couple things. We talked about water ad nauseum. That is a huge issue. I believe that a lack of a sustainable water supply is what's contributing to the high cost of housing, the inability to construct new housing. So we need incentives for the collection of new water, but also for owner occupants, so developer level. And then the one thing that a Republican would only say in this situation on raising taxes is we do need to raise taxes on conveyance to other than owner-occupant properties and create exemptions for owner-occupants. So those are some things that we can do to bring back Maui's housing, bring back some water and the abilities to build. And then in addition to that, we need to diversify our economy, because now we just lost a bunch of jobs from Lahaina and that supporting industry. So we need to support things like agriculture, and through the state school system, one other thing we can do is we can require the schools to buy food from local producers to support the local farmers, the local food producers, and give our kids more healthy food to eat, and then also support that economy as it continues to grow.
Thank you. You can finish the sentence when it says stop. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, appreciate it. I stuttered when I saw it come up.
Okay, another question from me. What question would you have liked to ask Kyle Yamashita if he were here at this candidate forum? And why would that question be important?
I would like to ask him what that he's done, that he's proud of, that he's gone out of his way for local families, and what piece of legislation that he's put forward or championed, and not just been someone there voting for or against it, but what have you proposed that is actually for the benefit of our local families in 22 years.
Did you want to answer the second part of that? Why is that important?
And that is important because I look at the voting record, and I'm not so sure that's the case. I don't want to go down the same route we were talking about as far with the finances and everything, but he is another six-figure war chest as well. And I think that as Maui's residents are broke, struggling to get by, myself, I have a very healthy job, and I'm just paycheck to paycheck for my family. We don't have the money to pay for candidates and support candidates, so a lot of the grassroots candidates don't get those funds. So it just kind of says where the incentive is for that kind of stuff.
All right, thank you very much. Last question. What question do you wish that we had asked you? Now, answer the question, and you have 2.5 minutes. So is there a question we have not asked that you wish we had?
A lot of times people ask, why are you running for office, and what makes you qualified, and what are you doing in the community? So that's something that I wanted to address. Actually, we have a shared background on some of the stuff for Kula up here. So I am not a career politician. I'm a busy guy that works probably about 10 to 12 hours a day for 5-6 days a week. I love spending time with my family, but I also care about our community. So I created a ministry through our church, Hope Chapel North Shore, where we are promoting food security by the 5 and 2 ministry that meets over at Kokomo Road on Friday mornings. That's a partnership with the Maui Food Bank, and then also from connecting with the Maui Nui Food Alliance, we're getting fresh produce there, so it's nutritious and not just canned food. And a lot of these things need to be done through that level. And then also in response to the Lahaina fires, I was there with a shovel and everybody in my friend group cutting fire breaks and working on the houses up in Aina Kula, just because I can't sit by when there's a problem. I want to jump in and do something about it, and that's why I'm running for office. And to follow up with that, I've coordinated with a church group from Oahu to come over and do work days in clearing lots and rebuilding fencing and cleaning up the properties that were destroyed up in Kula, as so many people forget about Kula in light of how much and devastating the Lahaina tragedy was. So my heart is to create and encourage opportunities for small businesses and nonprofits to actually step up where the government doesn't. So when we were talking about mental illness, I think a lot of things need to be put into place to where it's not the government addressing this problem, but rather the government coming alongside an organization that has a heart for service and mental health counselors and whatnot that are on the front lines with these people, caring for them, and actually taking a communal approach to solving these problems. So those are some of the things that I support and I'm behind. Yeah.
All right, those are the end of the questions for Mr. Johnson. Thank you very much.
Join us for TMDR weekdays at 7 and 10 p.m.
Just a little announcement
and
for House
on Cable
District
Channel 55.
13.
TMDR gives you the things you need to know, headline news from throughout Maui County. Join host Chivo Cheng Johnson Monday through Thursday and Patty Lee for our Aloha Friday edition. Join us weekdays for TMDR, the Maui Daily Report, at 7, 10, and midnight on Akaku, Cable Channel 55.
1, 2, 3, 4. Hey, Maui, don't miss the boat. Do yourself a favor. Get out and vote. I said, hey, Maui, don't miss the boat. Do yourself a favor. Get out and vote. Yeah.
Once again, elections loom large on the horizon. Election Day, November 5th, will be here sooner than you think. So get out there and exercise your right to vote. And don't forget to tune into Akaku channels 53, 54, and 55 on election night to enjoy our live election coverage. That's Tuesday, November 5th, starting at 7 p.m. Please make your voices heard.
Did you know Akaku offers free monthly PSA public service announcement production services for Maui Nui nonprofits? Agencies can record 30 or 60-second messages with a 30-minute studio reservation. Share your events, information, or news. You'll find details on our website, akaku.org, under Services, or by calling 808-871-5554. Record your free PSA at Akaku.
Okay, we're on to our next race, which is our Molokai Council seat. My name's Bobby Patnode. I'm the president of the Kula Community Association. And with me is
Chuck Carletta. I'm a board member of the Kula Community Association.
And we have Ms. Keani Rawlins-Fernandez and Mr. John Pele. Are you ready? Okay. First question. This is for Mr. Pele, and it's about ethics. And you have 1.5 minutes. Do you think it's ethical to take money from developers, unions, or others when you will later probably be making decisions that will affect them financially? 1.5 minutes.
Thanks for the question. Actually, I do think it's ethical. I am endorsed by unions, proudly, by the way. Our union workers are our family, our friends, our hardworking people in this community who go to work every day, try to make a living. I think ethics comes into question on your record. Ethics comes into question on what you do, what you say, and what you say you're going to do. I think that's where you can judge people as far as when it comes to ethics. People want to donate. When you campaign, people want to donate on the things that you want to fulfill. And if they believe in you, they'll donate. And I'll be honest with you, and I know a lot of the candidates, when we have our donation, our online donations, there's people there that we don't even know. They have gone online and they have donated. I couldn't tell you what their background is. I just know that they've gone online and donated to my campaign, and I send them a thank you card, and I appreciate it. But I do believe it is ethical because I am endorsed by unions. I have taken the money, and I'm proud to be endorsed by unions. And I believe ethics comes into play by one's actions, by how you act sitting in your position, and the record will stand for that. So that's what I believe.
Thank you. Ms. Rawlins-Fernandez, same question. Do you think it is ethical to take money from developers, unions, or others when you will later probably be making decisions that will affect them financially? 1.5 minutes.
Mahalo for that question. I'm first going to commend the Kula Community Association on these really hard questions. This is what holding your elected officials and those that want to represent you accountable looks like, because these are not easy. So to answer your question, I think that at the federal level, Congress needs to address Citizens United. That's at the core of it, where basically the Supreme Court made bribery legal. And so in saying that under the First Amendment that campaign donation is equivalent to free speech, I think that for our community to feel confident that their voices matter just as much as someone that can max your campaign for $2,000, that someone who either doesn't donate to your campaign or can only afford to donate $20, that everyone's voice is equally important. So I'm sorry I didn't answer your question. It is ethical. Under the law, it is legal.
Okay, thank you very much. I have a follow-up for you.
Okay.
For both of you. Should you disclose to your fellow council members that you have received a campaign contribution from a particular source that would be affected by the voting taking place on a matter before the council? 1 minute each, and Ms. Rawlins-Fernandez, why don't you go first?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the first part of the question?
Sure. Should you disclose to your fellow council members that you have received a campaign contribution from a particular source that would be affected by the voting taking place on a matter before the council?
Absolutely, yeah. If you receive donations from a developer of a development that the council will be voting on, you should absolutely disclose that you received campaign donations. And it'll be up to the people to decide whether your vote has been influenced by that campaign contribution or not. But I believe in transparency, and I believe in giving the community all the information so that they, for themselves, can decide whether to re-elect you, whether you're truly representing their voice when making decisions. Mahalo.
Thank you. Mr. Pele, same question.
I absolutely don't have a problem with the question. Yes, absolutely. Our campaign donations are public record. Anybody can go and look at any time and see who's donating to our campaign. And with your question on the unions, we've got to understand unions are our community too, right? They're voters, they're people who vote also. So they have a voice. When we talk about a voice, those union members at work have a voice. So I have no problem with people knowing who donated to my campaign. And then again, the record will show on your ethics, how you vote, and your rationale. Now, if you're asking recusal, I think that's a different question than disclosure. And I have no problem with disclosing my financial campaign donations. And it's public record for everybody to, and that's the transparency that I have, is that you can go and look anytime you want to.
Would you like to talk about recusal?
Oh, no, I don't think it's fair for a recusal. I wouldn't recuse myself because of that.
You would not?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't feel it necessary. Even if, I think we both, there's campaign financing. I think we should be honest that there's financing on both sides. Every candidate has somebody backing them. So would it be right to recuse? And that's, we leave it up to the community. But we gotta, it's not only unions and developers that finance campaigns. Okay. I hope we all understand that.
Thank you. Would you like to answer that?
About recusal?
Yes.
So the question is, should someone recuse themselves if they received maximum donation from a developer with whom you'll be voting on approval or disapproval of their project?
Yeah, they would be affected, right?
A recusal. I think that would be a new standard. The standard recusal is if whether you're able to be not influenced by the financial gain you receive. In the county charter, there is a code of ethics that outlines what financial interests and financial conflicts will look like, and that determines recusal. I think disclosure for sure, so that everyone understands. And like for me myself, I don't receive maximum donations from developers. I have signed the Our Hawaii Pledge to not receive contributions from those whose projects may come before us that I would have to vote on. Mahalo.
Thank you both. Over to you, Chuck.
Okay. Ms. Rawlins-Fernandez, you've learned a lot of lessons on Molokai about dealing with a devastating axis deer problem and its impact on environmental degradation. What is the #1 county-wide policy and/or program you would institute regarding axis deer? 2 minutes.
Mahalo for that question. So what we have done for the past few years is provided funding to the Molokai Hunting Club. The Molokai Hunting Club has been working with the large landowners to access their private land to help to manage the herds in that area. The Molokai Hunting Club has also partnered with, I believe, BYU in setting up cameras, infrared, to be able to track and have a more accurate count of deer in the different areas. For Molokai, deer has become more of a problem during droughts when they start coming into people's yards, and mostly when they get to the roads. And our residents, and I'm sure residents here as well, have come into contact with deer and either no longer have that car or have damage to that car. And so, and then, during the 2019 really like 2-year drought, the deer were severely malnourished and coming to the properties and like just dying, and there was like dead carcasses everywhere. And so we partnered with a different agency to remove the carcasses. In the last few years, things have gotten better, and I believe that it has been through the partnership with the Molokai Hunting Club. Mahalo.
Thank you. Mr. Pele, we have the same question for you. You have learned a lot of lessons on Molokai about dealing with the devastating axis deer problem and its impact on environmental degradation. What is the #1 countywide policy and or program you would institute regarding axis deer? 2 minutes, please.
Well, I think Councilwoman Fernandez has answered that very well, but I will add to that. I think the Molokai Hunting Club, I'm a big supporter of them, a big advocate of them, and I think we need more organizations like that that can go out and help manage. Now, when we talk about management, the Hawaiians, they have a great way of managing resources, and I think they would have been excellent managers of this resource, right? And we don't have that ability because of private landowners. Sometimes private landowners are very hesitant to let people hunt on their lands, of course, for liability's sake. So there's a big concern with that on Molokai, even in Maui. I would love to see more programs with fencing to allow. I own a 5-acre property on the west end. It's an ag lot, and during the 2019, I removed 46 deer from my property. They were just dying. They were just falling and dying. I can't grow vegetables, even though I'm required to by law, because I have an ag lot. I have a hard time growing trees because of the deer incursion. So I think if we can set up programs that can deal with those kind of mitigation techniques. And of course, we always got to remember that the deer is a resource, a subsistence resource for the people for the local Hawaiians. So we got to really balance and make sure that they're included in all the processes because they have the knowledge, right? They have the knowledge and they have the ability to help us manage these herds. And it's doing irreparable damage to our landscape and to our ocean with all the runoff that is occurring. So hopefully we can get some of those programs instituted.
Thank you. And back to Bobby.
Okay. Mr. Pele, what can the county do to improve the quality of life on Molokai? Should there be more social programs and or economic development? What kind? You have 2 minutes.
What the county can do for Molokai, I think Molokai is starting to face the same thing that we're facing here. We need housing opportunities for our people that they can afford. I own a business. I've been a small business owner for, I owned a grocery store for 14 years. I own a restaurant in Hotel Molokai now for 7 years. So I think those kind of economic opportunities to keep our workforce going. Molokai has a lot of entrepreneurship, very creative in small businesses, and I think we can support that. But I really believe that we struggle dearly with mental health services. We struggle dearly with substance abuse programs, and we need money for those kind of help because we have a huge problem with transportation on our island, and we have a huge problem with medical services, especially for our kupuna and our keiki. It's very challenging. So anything the county can do, put forth programs and monies for those kind of programs, or leveraging state or federal monies to help us, I think that's critical for us to be able to work across the lines, right? State and federal funding. But those are some of the issues that we deal with on Molokai.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Rawlins-Fernandez, same question. What can the county do to improve the quality of life on Molokai? Should there be more social programs and or economic development? What kind? 2 minutes.
Mahalo for that question. I think, so for all of the above, and I agree with what Mr. Pele shared. I think some of the things, and I love talking about the accomplishments of our community. Our community has been doing amazing things in the last 5 years, one of which is our energy work. Right now, there's an energy plan that Leilani Chow with Sustainable Molokai developed to get us to 100% renewable energy that will be community-owned. And that's been something that's been important to our community for the past couple of decades. And with that, the county, I've been spearheading the support through in budget to support the workforce development for our energy programs. Next year, there will be the first large-scale solar farm that will be owned by our co-op, Ho'ahu, that's run by Chris O'Brien right now, and our volunteer community board members. And it'll cover about 20% of our island's energy needs and will reduce the energy bill by about 25%. So it's something that we're super proud of. Another thing that I actually just got back from working with our community on is our Aina Back initiative, and that's taking back control over the 56,000 acres that's currently held by Guko Leisure, which is a Singapore-based company that develops casinos around the world. And that is an opportunity that we're really excited about as a community for economic development and revitalization, conservation, creating jobs in conservation, and being the leaders in climate change adaptation. And the last thing is the ferry, and we're working on that with the Lanai Expeditions Ferry to do a feasibility study. Okay, sorry. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Rawlins-Fernandez, ask Mr. Pele a question, and he'll have 2 minutes to answer, and you'll get a half minute of rebuttal after he answers.
Okay, all right. My question is, most of those who contributed to your campaign, over $90,000 worth in the past election, have an interest in not managing tourism, the tourism industry in the way the community would prefer. In order to mitigate over-tourism, our residents have clearly cited as a serious problem, like Oahu-based Kobayashi Group and Black Sand Capital LLC. What are you doing to reduce tourists on Maui, or in Maui County, to the ratio stipulated in the Maui Island Plan, and to ensure that tourists who do come are respectful to our community and home?
Oh, that's the same question I was asked at the West Maui tax in 2022. And listen, I come from the tourism industry. I'll be honest with everybody. I spent 25 years in the tourism industry. I started as a busboy. Ended up as a general manager of hotel operations. The tourism industry allowed me to be a productive member of our society. It paid for my businesses. It paid for my house. It allowed me to put my daughter through school and graduate from Chaminade University with 2 degrees. So, having said that, I do believe we have a problem with tourism, and I believe that HTA and the new regenerative tourism, led by some really good people, Kalani Ka'anana, does an excellent job, and I think we need to work towards. I have no problem with working towards controlling tourism and managing it better, because it does affect people. I mean, and I won't hide from that. But we do have to recognize the economic benefits. We can't just keep saying that they don't provide economics to our community, because it does. It brings over 1/3 of our $1.7 billion budget to the table. So can we manage it? Yes. And I will be part of that, managing tourism. And I don't hide from the fact that I came up through the tourism industry. And quite proud of it, actually.
Thank you. And would you like to comment? Ms. Fernandez?
Comment?
You have 30 seconds, if you like, for a rebuttal.
About
what he said.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. This is new. I really like this format. It's just new. I guess my question was about, so the Maui Island Plan stipulates that there will only be 1 tourist per 3 residents, and that the number of tourism has exceeded that. And while we can't stop flights from bringing people, more tourists in, what we can do is stop the number of beds that heads can be can lay down in. And that's one of the only things under our control, and that was something that I tried to do last term and that I will continue doing in my next term. Mahalo.
Thank you. And Mr. Pele, please ask Ms. Rawlins-Fernandez a question. And she would have 2 minutes to answer, and then you can have a brief rebuttal. Thank you.
I don't mean to be disrespectful to the forum, and I struggle with this because, listen, it's obvious we have different philosophies, me and Keani. We're from a small island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to get to my question, but it's difficult for me because I want our records to show who we are. She has a record that everybody can look at. I wish to have a record that people can look at. And I will work as hard as I can. And I really, truly believe that we don't have to agree with one another to be kind to one another and respect one another. So I struggled with this in 2022, and I'm struggling with it now. And I really don't have a question, because she'll stand on her record. Anybody can go and look at her record and understand what her record is. And believe, we believe in why we're running. We believe it. That's why we're doing it. And, I'm sorry, guys, that I don't have a question to attack her with, but I just don't. I'd rather talk about what I can do for you guys rather than what she can't.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Wait, are you going to give me my 2 minutes?
I don't think so. You didn't ask a question.
But that wasn't timed. I'll just respond in my 2 minutes.
Okay, very briefly.
Okay. So John does have a record. He was on the Molokai Planning Commission for 5 years. And that's public record as well, and you can go in and see his record. And one of the things that I'm grateful that he supported was the TVR cap, the zero cap that our community asked for on Molokai. No TVRs in residential zone. So, I'm mahalo, John, for supporting that, for supporting our community. And in response to, I'm sorry if my question felt like an attack to you, but I think one of the things that I am also grateful to John for is the civility that we're trying to model, and because we do have an appreciation and aloha for each other. And there's so much polarization at the federal level right now that aloha is really what is needed to keep our community together. Because the most important thing is community. And if during an election, during your campaign, the mud you sling is not something that's recoverable from, then we continue to erode our community, and that's the most important thing. Whatever the problem, community is the answer. And so that's why I think, for us, when we see each other, we aloha each other. Like with the council we have now, most of the things we actually agree on. Most of the things John and I actually agree on. There's just a few things that we disagree on. And that's how housing development works, the affordability, where it's placed, and the amount of tourism, how tourism is managed. So those aren't small things. And that's important for everyone to understand when they vote for either of us. But for the most part, we want the best for our community. Mahalo for the time to respond. And I think you get 30 seconds.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you both.
Thank you both.
They didn't ask us the question that they wanted to ask.
What question?
They said, what question did you ask?
Join us for TMDR, weekdays at 7 and 10 p.m. and midnight on Cable Channel 55. TMDR gives you the things you need to know, headline news from throughout Maui County. Join host Chivo Cheng Johnson Monday through Thursday and Patty Lee for our Aloha Friday edition. Join us weekdays for TMDR, the Maui Daily Report, at 7, 10, and midnight on Akaku, Cable Channel 55.
1, 2, 3, 4. Hey, Maui, don't miss the boat. Do yourself a favor. Get out and vote. I said, hey, Maui, don't miss the boat. Do yourself a favor. Get out and vote, yeah. Woo!
Once again, elections loom large on the horizon. Election Day, November 5th, will be here sooner than you think. So get out there and exercise your right to vote. And don't forget to tune into Akaku channels 53, 54, and 55 on election night to enjoy our live election coverage. That's Tuesday, November 5th, starting at 7 p.m. Please make your voices heard.
Aloha, everyone. Please take your seats because we are now to the South Maui race of the Maui County Council. My name is Jordan Hawker. I am your programs director and board member here at Kula Community Association. My co-moderator is Marina Riker, who is also a member of the Kula Community Association. And we have Kelly King and Tom Cook up against each other today for the South Maui race. So I will just get into it. Mr. Cook, if you don't mind, I'd like to start with you.
Fine.
Okay. Describe the people who are less likely to vote for you and those who are more likely to support you. You have 1.5 minutes.
Thank you for that question. I think it's an appropriate question. The people who are less likely to vote for me are people who have never met me or don't know my friends or my family and have basically read something about me or heard something about me. I think the people who are most likely to vote for me are the people who have met me and recognize that labels like being a contractor or whatever, token haole from the mainland, whatever you want to call me, I like to connect with people, and I feel that when they get to meet me, they understand who I am. We have difference of opinions and philosophies, but in general, maintaining respect is important to me, and that's my answer.
Okay, I believe you have more time. Would you like to talk about the people who are likely to vote for you?
Okay, well, I thought I answered both. The ones who are unlikely to meet are the people who have never met me and have only heard about me. The people who are more likely to vote for me are the people who have worked with me, interacted with me, answered the door when I'm canvassing, and talking to them and having a conversation. Whenever I interact with people, I tend to connect and not be in conflict. It's important to me that I treat people with respect, and I think that resonates, and that is why people would vote for me.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. And to you, Ms. King, please describe the people who would be less likely to vote for you and those more likely to vote. Again, 1.5 minutes.
I think the people who would be less likely to vote for me are people who are probably not of this island, are coming here to develop luxury homes and make money off our island. The people that would be likely to vote for me are the people I've worked with, who know my record, who have worked with me on passing the restoration preservation of the wetlands, the outdoor lighting bill to protect our biodiversity, the open space that I got funding for in Ma'alaya and other places, and the affordable housing projects that I've worked really hard to bring into the South Maui and West Maui areas. And some of it got built during my first 3 terms. So I'm really proud that there's these 200 people that are living in apartment buildings that are starting at less than $600 for a 2-bedroom apartment, capped at $1,350 for a 3-bedroom. But there's just real results, and people know that. And I've worked, from the time back in the 90s when I was on the State Board of Education, I was working in Kula community, building playgrounds, Kihei community, building playgrounds. So people know me from the past 30 years of community activism.
Okay. And you do still have a little bit of time if you'd like to say anything else. You have
Okay, well, I've got 15
Sorry.
seconds. I'm happy to be here because I'm reconnecting with a lot of people I haven't seen in a while since before COVID. And I've been working with a lot of nonprofit organizations, not just on Maui, but throughout the state, on Molokai. Most of the bills I've passed have originated from a problem, an environmental problem.
We are at the stop time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyway,
You've done a lot. We do know that. Okay.
It's on the website.
And Ms. King, you have the first question. Who are the 5 biggest contributors to your campaign, and what are they expecting to get by making those sizable contributions? You have 1.5 minutes.
Okay, they would be individuals who maxed out for me and people who believe in me, who expect me to continue the work on affordable housing, the work on the environmental protections, the work on things like lifting up our next generation of leaders through the Youth Council, which I created in my last year on the council. Very disappointed that that was dropped after I left the council, and that's one of the reasons I'm coming back. But trying to lift up the community, educate the community. I also created a legislative video document to educate people on the different levels of government and how they can interact. And there's nobody who's donated to me that expects anything that they're going to have financial gain from. I haven't taken any money from big developers or especially not outside developers that are outside of our community. And I won't. And I did take that same pledge that Keani was talking about earlier, our Hawaii.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Well, you asked me about my biggest donors, and I think the main thing is that there are people who appreciate the work that I've been doing and that I've done, and they want to see that continue. And so, if you go to my website, Kelly King for Maui, FOR, not the number 4. There's a whole list of my accomplishments and the things I've been working on since before I was even on the council. And I appreciate everybody who's been a part of all that.
And we're at time. Mr. Cook, I have the same question for you, which is who are the 5 biggest contributors to your campaign, and what are they expecting to get by making those sizable contributions? You also have 1.5 minutes.
I have a number of sizable contributions to me, basically the unions, some businesses, private individuals. The reason that people support me is because of my experience, my history of being a builder, an employee, an employer, and a builder. People recognize one of the things that people compliment me on is, Tom, not only did you do good work, but you treated your people really well. My ability to basically analyze a project, to review and assess what they're saying they're going to do, to be able to hold them accountable, to be able to recognize how feasible and practical that it is something that they recognize that I have the ability to do. I'm 70 years old in December. I'm not a career politician. My goal and ambition is serving on the council, hopefully for 5 two-year terms, is to basically enable the government to become more fair and more advocating and enabling for our community, for building homes as well as for building small businesses and restaurants. I think our county overregulates. That's part of the reason why it's costly. That's why we don't have as many people who can open restaurants. Fast food restaurants can afford to do it, but a small restaurant and a small business can't. Advocating, enabling, and encouraging, and putting the regulation on the side to manage our resources and health and safety, but
And I'm sorry,
saying
Mr. Cook, we are at
saying
time.
yes instead of no.
Okay. All right. And Mr. Cook, we're going to start with you again. What are your plans to ensure the enhancement of high quality of life programs such as safety, adequate housing, and environmental protection? You have 1.5 minutes.
Thank you for that question. I believe in Maui. I believe that we have resources, an abundance of resources that need to be managed and addressed. But I think that we as a community can grow. We need to be able to grow for our youth. 900 kids are graduating from high school every year or more. Our kapuna, there's a 20 to 30 year waiting period for them, for basically Halemakua and the other houses. So we need to build, but we need to build for our local people, local residents. We also need to build for people who have left the islands and who want to come home. So managing our water resources, developing the wastewater, managing the solid waste. I believe that we have the capacity and the ability and the talent to do these things. We need the government to recognize and the general public to agree that if we work collectively together towards a common goal, we can provide the housing and whatnot. So the county's going to start paying the off-site improvements, and that's going to basically make housing cheaper. Leasehold property. There's a variety of answers, and that's what we need to do, is basically focus on the solutions and not so much on the problem.
Okay, and a quick follow-up to that. What taxes would you raise to accomplish the programs that you just described? You have 1.5 minutes.
I think that the luxury homes can be basically an annuity to substantially pay for our community, as well as the tourism industry. I think that if the government enables us to build all of the homes that we need to build for local people, that's creating a lot of jobs, that creates a lot of tax revenue, and it basically has the economy running. What's happened over the last several years is there's this boom-bust cycle where it'll be choke it off and it goes. Our island is not a commodity. I've never done speculative real estate. I firmly believe that we need to build for our local residents, prioritize for our local residents, and the tax people who are coming. I'd like the visitor industry to be just that, the visitor industry, and not people who come, fall in love with it, and buy property here.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cook. And Ms. King, we're going to have the same question. I'll go ahead and repeat it.
Thank you.
What are your plans to ensure the enhancement of high quality of life programs such as safety, adequate housing, and environmental protection? 1.5 minutes.
Okay, well, I've done a lot of that already, and one of the things that I learned about affordable housing, and I suspected this when I first got on the council in 2017, is that this is not a permit issue. I mean, if you grease the skids for permits, you're going to end up with very bad projects along with some good ones. What was happening was we were having a lack of communication between developers and the neighborhoods they want to develop in. And so when I was on the council, everybody who came to me with an affordable housing project, I took to the community, in front of the Kihei Community Association, in front of the South Maui Community Advisory Committee, and once they got they had to make some changes. You know, we got a couple of affordable rentals that started at below $600 for a 2-bedroom apartment. But once they took their project to our entities in our community and they were able to make some easy changes, the community is all about it. And that project, the first project, went through in 2.5 years, which is breakneck speed on Maui. So we can do this, but it takes a lot of communication, and it takes bringing projects to the community that we want. Most of the projects that are in our community plan right now, this new plan coming forward, are huge luxury projects. There's one right now called Lead Core that has 900 luxury homes and 100 affordable homes. That's not a good ratio. So that is where the taxes need to be, but I don't want that. I don't want 900 luxury homes in South Maui. I think we can get all of the projects that I brought into our community in my term have been 100% affordable. 3 of them have been for a 65-year period. And we can do this because there are developers who want to do 100% affordable housing.
And a follow-up, what taxes would you raise to accomplish what you were talking about?
I would, and I think it's been said before, I would raise taxes on hotels. The hotel taxes are incredibly low. They're the lowest in the state. I would raise hotel taxes on vacation empty homes, which is something that Oahu already did. There's already a model for that. Those are taking up space and raising the rate of housing on the island. And those are the people who can afford it. This is second, third, fourth homes for most people.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. King, the first question is for you. Much of Kihei was developed over wetlands. How can South Maui continue to develop with such serious drainage and flooding problems? And should development be limited in any way?
Yes, it should be limited. One of the reasons we passed the Wetland Restoration and Preservation Bill was to be able to identify where the wetlands are. And we did not make a bill that was going to ask people to take their homes down if they were already built on wetlands. But the purpose of the bill was to also create a wetland overlay map so that people who are trying to develop on wetlands could see that they were on wetlands, and the county could discuss buying some of those properties back, which the county is starting to do. We used to have over 200 acres of wetlands in South Maui. We have less than 25 now. And so we're slowly gaining some. We've got some wetland projects that I had gotten funded. I was really distressed to hear that they lost their funding this year. And I don't know what's going to happen to those, but we really need to build those wetlands back up because that's what absorbs the water during storms that keeps those areas from flooding, and they're gone.
Mr. Cook, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Was that the entire question?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Cook, same question for you. How can South Maui continue to develop with such serious drainage and flooding problems? Should development be limited in any way? You have 1.5 minutes.
Yes, I totally agree. It should be limited in Makai of the Pi'ilani Highway. The county is currently in negotiation with a landowner for 2 of the major gulches in Kalaniakoi, and they are they're entitled. My position is that they're not going to build no matter what, and so the county is going to negotiate and purchase with that. I'm working with the landowners, Mauka. The solution so not building on the Makai side of the road, they're building at Lapoa Center. The high-tech park is Mauka side of the road where flooding won't be an issue. They're going to be designing it and building it with retention basins and doing it well. The large landowners that I've brought together and that we've gone up there and working with the federal government and the state government to do the retention basins up Mauka to control the amount of water that's coming down, to capture the sediment, to get it to settle out so that it can be harvested and used. In those retention basins, the water will help recharge the aquifer. So holistically looking at it from Mauka to Makai is the solution. So I'm not an advocate of building Makai, the Pi'ilani Highway. If you fly over Kihei and you look at it, there are some vacant lots, but for the most part, that part is pretty much all built out.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cook. We're moving on to the next question, and we are going to start with you. We know that affordable housing is in short supply. The mayor has presented his plan to reduce short-term rentals. What is your plan to handle affordable housing and the continuing dependence we have on tourism?
I think our problem with housing is that we're not building it. I'm going to use an example. Upcountry, I have a lot of friends and family, and there's a lot of people in this room who own property. So the cost of the land isn't the issue. They have the ability to build, but they don't have the water. The County of Maui has to step up and improve the infrastructure and provide the source, the storage, and the transmission to enable people who own land to build their own homes. Right there's quite a large population, a large segment of the local population who could build a home for $300,000 to $400,000, $500,000, depending upon the size, but they need the water. And the upcountry, we have water in the Haiku aquifer and the other aquifers. The Iao aquifer is being overpumped. We need to release that by developing the other water resources responsibly. So as a builder, I'll share with you that if you have some consistency to building, the trades build, if you build consistently for 4 years, that's like one generation of tradesmen, okay? We can, that's the middle class too, okay? Our community can build our community by doing the infrastructure, by building the homes, by expanding on our diversified agriculture, by selling the agriculture to the tourists, to the visitor industry, and having a circular economy that we can all grow together and not be as fragmented as we are now.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. And Ms. King, same question, I will repeat. We all know that affordable housing is in short supply. The mayor has presented his plan to reduce short-term rentals. What is your plan to handle affordable housing and the continuing dependence on tourism? 1.5 minutes.
Okay, well, I've talked about affordable housing, and I think we can continue. Some of the, actually, 3 of the projects that I started when I was on, at the beginning of my term, one of my 3 terms have been completed now. And so things are moving quickly in South Maui. There's about 1,000 units, just under 1,000 units, I think, that I was involved in helping instigate while I was on the council. So that can continue to happen. And I think, and well, actually 2 of those projects were in Lahaina. So I think that's going to continue to happen if we do it the right way and if we continue to get projects that we can support. That's been the big key. Projects like Wailea 670 are still never broke ground in 30 years because the community never supported it and the developer never came to the community to make sure we had that mutual understanding that it was good for the community. So that's a huge issue. Can you repeat the other part of your question?
Yeah. So the first point, what is your plan to handle affordable housing, and then the continuing dependence on tourism?
Well, tourism, you know, we have to expand our economic diversity, and we have to start supporting other industries. And we put money into it. We started doing that, I think it was in my second term, when we were able to take the money from the tourism industry and put it into agriculture. Agriculture is starting to grow now, and I've talked to so many small farmers who availed themselves of our micro grants that we put out. There's like 2.5 million, and have been able to expand their operations from those grants. Those grants are continuing. We also need to support things like technology. I mean, we send our kids off to college and they get degrees and they come back and they say, there's nothing for me to do here. So we got to start putting money into these other industries, the arts, the film industry, the health sector, the education sector, so that we, you know, the places where we have shortages, teachers and first responders.
Great. Thank you, Ms. King.
We have reached the phase where you get to ask each other questions. Ms. King, you're first. You can ask your opponent a question. He has 1.5 minutes to answer, and then you will be able to make another 30-second rebuttal.
Okay. Tom, I was really distressed when the council in your committee passed out the idea, the proposal to sell out the Upcountry water system to a venture capitalist, Free Market Ventures, I think it was called, and then brought it to the community and got roundly denied by the community on that idea. Why did you not take that to the community first? And did you ever consider looking to see if we could do that drilling ourselves so that we could continue to own the water, our systems ourselves? That was the intent of the Water Authority Charter Amendment, which passed with flying colors, in the last election. So, what was that all? I don't understand where that came from. I understand why it was shut down, because the community really disliked that idea. But there seemed to be no sharing of the idea with the community before it was passed out of the committee.
1.5 minutes, Mr. Cook.
Okay. Well, we did. The reason it's held in committee is because you can have public forum to have the water director and the people who are doing it there to answer questions, and everybody can do it either online or in person. So that's a misunderstanding and a misstatement that people weren't informed, because there wasn't, the water director spoke with them, they made a proposal, got to the point where they were considering it. When it came to the council, we had extensive, I think I had 4 different meetings. Your Upcountry representative also had meetings. So it was discussed in detail. It was not selling the water to a foreign or somebody else. The water is owned by the people of Hawaii. The delivery system, the pumps or whatever, is the money that they're investing in. That well was extremely expensive and not that desirable in a lot of different ways. The reason that the water department was looking at that, the consent decree that is preventing us from drilling in haiku and lower elevations where there's known water and it's appropriate. There's issues with the heptachlor, but it can be filtered out. Is one of it is we, the community, the county, has to test any and all other options and demonstrate that they're not viable. So by checking out a well like this was one of the consent decree criteria. They were going to pay for it. There was very little risk to the community. The fact that the community didn't want it, my comment was, I'm really glad we got together and talked about it this much, and I hope that the group stays together, because the Upcountry water meter list people need to unite and speak loudly for us to develop water upcountry.
Ms. King, you have 30 seconds.
Yeah, it is true that we own the water. The point was that we were selling out the water system and to another private entity who was then going to sell the water back to the county at a higher rate. And my understanding is it was a 30-year contract. That is why we wrote the Charter Amendment on the Water Authority, is so we could get those water systems back into the hands of Maui people. And the Maui County could be running our water systems and charge fair and equal rates across the board.
Okay, Mr. Cook, your turn. Same rules. You can ask a question. Ms. King has a minute and a half to answer, and then you'll be able to make a 30-second rebuttal.
Okay. Kelly, often you use the word collaboration. Could you describe an example and what collaboration means to you?
Yes, I can. You know, I've collaborated with the Maui Nui Marine Resource Council to create the wetlands bill and the ban on chemical sunscreens. I collaborated with the Maui Nui Seabird Recovery Program on the outdoor lighting bill to help solve the issue that they saw as bird fallout, and the Hawaii Wildlife Fund. I also, that was a big one because I collaborated with them on the Lahaina injection well settlement, and I actually created the settlement agreement that was passed by the council by working with Earth Justice, so that we could stop spending so much money on that. That was a $4 million lawsuit when I got to the council, and they just kept pouring money into the lawsuit. I said, why don't we talk to these people and settle the problem? They just want to see solutions. They don't want to cause harm to the county. And so that's why I was able to settle it. We were able to get it passed by the council. Unfortunately, the mayor back then did not sign it, as you probably know, and wanted to take it to the Supreme Court, which thankfully, and I say thankfully, the county lost, because had we won that case, it would have decimated the Clean Water Act across the country. I was chair back then, and I was getting calls from Bloomberg Environmental, from reporters from Al Jazeera. There were reporters, there were environmental former EPA directors from across the country who were joining that lawsuit, who were writing amicus briefs, siding with the environmental side of it. And I was appalled that the county was just keep fighting for the right to pollute. So many, many collaborations.
Sorry, Mr. Cook, you have 30 seconds.
I'll just share my definition of collaboration as what I did with the R1 water to utilize it, and basically it'll be in short supply because we'll be using all of it. Bring all the landowners together, the Department of Water Supply, Environmental Management, the owners of Wailea Golf Course on the south side, similarly the group of people all on the west side, to come up with a method and means to basically identify the engineering and the land use and all of the various things to get all of the stakeholders together. So the R1 water on both sides will be used. My idea of collaboration is to actually work with people and get stuff done.
Thank you. That was the last question.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Thank you, Ms. King.
So much.
Thanks.
All right. Now we're up to our upcountry race. Yay, upcountry. So once again, my name's Bobby Patnode. I'm the president of the Kula Community Association. And with me is our vice president.
We got the A team, huh?
Yeah, we do, because it's upcountry. So we have here tonight with us Ms. Yuki Lei Sigimura, our incumbent, and we have Jocelyn Cruz, who is our brand new candidate in this race.
Aloha.
So I'm going to start with the questions. Ms. Sugimura, please give an honest self-assessment of your strengths and weaknesses as they relate to the council position that you are seeking. You have 2 minutes.
Very good question. So, can you hear me?
Get close.
Okay. So, for this council seat that I have, I am the vice chair of the council, as well as I'm the budget chair. So, for me to get to this point of being able to take these broad strokes and positions to lead our organization is really an accumulation of the different years of services that I have provided the body and the organization. So these are strengths, and I also believe very firmly in constituency work. And because of that, I think I have a broad understanding of what's happening in the community, as well as I have staff that are assigned to basically take care of constituency work, because I believe that it's really important. Like today I went to visit the Kona Low Storm Road down here in Lower Kula Road. If you call my office, I will do site visits as I did today, but we also are able to facilitate working within the county. Now the shortcoming is we cannot solve all problems, and I wish we could. But whatever way I can, I am a very good networker because of my years of service in the community. And I will try to find answers not only in the county of Maui, but even if it's federal government, because I was a staff person for Senator Hirono and U.S. Senator Akaka. So I have my people that I've worked with in that level of government, as well as with the state. So I believe the strength of what I'm able to bring to the table comes greater than just what the county can do.
Thank you very much. Ms. Cruz, what is it that gets you excited to serve the people of Maui County as one of our next county council members?
I am most excited about food sovereignty and food security. I'm a project manager for a farm, so I'm just very excited to champion as many farmers as possible, and that includes getting them more rights to water. So really pushing forward with the East Maui Water Authority and getting them the funding that they need. I live in Kula 200, and even my water comes from the east side. So we really need to I believe water is a public trust, so we need to put our resources back in the hands of the people and the community. I think we have so many brilliant people in our community, and I believe in a system that is community-led and government-funded. The farm that I work on, we do regenerative farming practices and agroforestry practices, and agroforestry actually expedites growth time. So up here, I would be super excited to champion the ag park and incentivize and assist farmers to becoming organic certified, so we can work with TOP, which is the Transition to Organic Partnership Program. We can also work with Common Ground Collective, who offers a foster farm program. With both of these, you are given counseling in how to, not just how to grow, but what you should expect in your first 1 to 3 years, in your 4 to 5 years, your 7 to 10 years. And I'm super grateful to be learning from really amazing people. Fortunately, I was able to sit down with Dick Mayer, and he went over some of the issues in the county with me, and we went over the Maui Island Plan, and I feel really fortunate that we have really amazing plans like the Maui Island Plan and the Maui County Comprehensive Affordable Housing Plan, and I would look forward to implementing the solutions in those. Thank you.
Thank you. Over to you, Doug.
Okay. Ms. Cruz, we're going to go back to you. Pick on you. No. What is your evaluation of the ability of the present council to meet the needs of the people of Maui? How is the county council failing to meet the needs? And please give your assessment and suggestions for improving this.
I think some of the shortcomings are siding with developers rather than the community. In my opinion, it seems pretty apparent that certain offshore entities are taken into account more than the people sometimes. And I think that it's really important to put the council back in the hands of the people because, like I said earlier, we have really brilliant people in our community, and I do think that campaign financing is a big issue, and it is transparent online, and I think that that's great. And when you look at who some of the campaign contributors are, there's a very clear trail of certain members voting in favor of, like, let's say, Ledcor. And Ledcor is an offshore entity, and I don't think that they should be allowed into our community again. They're the ones who are proposing the South Side construction, and we haven't even really implemented many of the strategies, if any, from the Maui County Affordable Housing Plan. So I don't understand why we would even consider building 900 homes, and like Kelly King said, with only 100 of them being affordable. And it's also like, what is the affordability? What is the AMI for that? You know, the Maui County Comprehensive Plan we've had since 2001, and that was supposed to take us through 2021, and it was supposed to take us through 2025, and we're, 4 months away from 2025, and we have a huge housing crisis, and part of that is water issues. So it again goes back to, we need more local control of our valuable resources. So I would love to champion the East Maui Water Authority and get them the funding that they need.
Thank you. Ms. Sigimura, we're going to go with the same question to you. I'll read it. What is your evaluation of the ability of the present council to meet the needs of the people of Maui? How is the county council failing to meet the needs? If this is true, please give your assessment and suggestions for improving this.
So one of the, as you know, the wildfires that impacted us on August 8th, 2023, impacted West Maui, impacted us upcountry, but it really impacted the whole community. And what this brought and is visible to us are all the shortcomings that existed before the wildfire, and it got harder after the wildfire. The difficulty that we have with the shortcoming that we have is that we need more water, and water is the solutions for having more affordable housing. And I believe that the shortcoming of the council is that we do not have control of the water. The water is controlled by Seaworm, which is a state function, especially in West Maui. Believe it or not, the council implemented a law that we said, okay, state, you take over the water, and this happened before the wildfire. And if we had more control of the water, then we could then find solutions to solve our housing problems. So what we're doing right now is we're operating in West Maui on emergency proclamations, which will allow temporary housing to be built. We need the temporary housing to be converted really to permanent housing, because all of the people who lost their homes on August the 8th need someplace to go. And it is our biggest responsibility. So the shortcoming is, I wish we had more control of the water, and that, especially for West Maui, as we're running into great solutions but being stopped just because that we don't have the water on a long-term basis. We can give away water today for uses in West Maui, but just remember that if we gave water away, or we let water be used for development projects in West Maui now, that when the residents come back, they're going to need that water back. So it's not like there's this water that we can just give away and there's an abundant supply. It is not. It's all accounted for. And those are really, really difficult solutions. I'm a part of the Economic Recovery Commission, which just ended actually yesterday. And part of their solutions was housing. We need things for businesses, right? They're trying to create like a temporary tent structure, which I totally support. But we found land possibly with Kamehameha schools, because they have a lot of land up there in West Maui, but there's no water, and we have such dire needs. And so these are the shortcomings, which is very frustrating. And that after I went through this Economic Recovery Commission, what I would like to do is sit with the governor and see how his emergency proclamations that he's been doing, how can we stretch it so it's not just these short 60-day cycles with the EPs. And we have huge, thank you, I'll stop.
Thank you, Sean Wilson, who's keeping our time for us tonight.
You're up, my dear.
I'm up. Okay. Back to you again.
Okay.
Ms. Sugimura.
All right.
We had a 2018 fire that burned 20 houses in West Maui. We had the 2023 fire that burned 20 houses in Kula. What are you doing to make sure it doesn't happen again? 2 minutes.
Oh man, there's all kinds of things happening. So first of all, the 2018 fire that happened in West Maui, because I checked with fire chief, and what was done. So basically, there was a report done, which is a part of the process, and all of the items that were to be checked off and done, I was told that it got looked into. And then the 23 fire, if we're going to talk about Upcountry, is also very similar with West Maui. And if you think about how the fire happened, which happened almost at midnight on the 8th, and it came down it impacted Olinda, and it came through the gulches. And if we didn't have the great work of the developers, like Goodfellows or others, I see Kyle in the audience, Ellison, or people like that who just got up and helped, we would have lost Kula 200 because a fire was going down that gulch. We would have lost, I say, there was a 6,000-acre Pulehu Road fire that you all know that was actually livestock land with Haleakala Ranch, and it was Mahi Pono land. And thank God that we had those contractors that got out and they built fire breaks. That 7-mile fire break, I believe, saved Kihei. If they didn't have that readiness to get up and jump into the fire, basically, and put the fire breaks up, then the fire would have gone to South Maui. I always say that there's a big story that nobody talks about, but I did a site visit and I got to actually see it. And so what we're doing in terms of resiliency for the future, I see Sarah Tekula here working with the Kula Watershed Alliance in terms of regrowth and resiliency. And if you give me more time, I can talk lots about all of this, but my time is up.
It's a big subject, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, Ms. Cruz, we had a 2018 fire that burned 20 houses in West Maui. We had the 2023 fire that burned 20 houses in Kula. What would you do to make sure that kind of destruction does not happen again? 2 minutes.
Thank you. So land management is huge, and I know that the county is responsible for land management. So requiring landowners to clean their yards and create fire breaks. Thank God we have people in the community, like Yuki was saying, that really get together. Also getting rid of a lot of the invasive species, which I know the Kula watershed is doing a lot of. Like these wattle trees up here are little tinders for the fires. So along with that, I just have to go back to agriculture and farming. Like, yes, I know that I hear about water shortages, but then I hear about how much water these big hotels are using. And I know this is on the south side, but the Grand Wailea uses about 500,000 gallons of water a day. So it's just hard for me to really believe that there is a water shortage. I think it's the way that we're allocating our water. I think that we're mismanaging where it's going. And if we start to really build up more farmland, that creates healthier soil, and soil that's able to absorb water and fight water runoff. We can start to choke out these invasive species. And in turn, we get to feed our community. So I think allocating the water back to our farmers, managing the land better, especially now we've learned so much and our community is so involved. So really leaning into our community and working with their brilliance and their solutions. I know the Kula watershed you guys just met with, sorry, I have some notes. You guys just met with somebody who would be able to give us really good information on how to best manage, sorry, I can't find it in my notes, but how to best manage our land. And again, I just really think we need to lean into our agricultural crops, also for a new source of revenue and income. So I think food security and sovereignty is going to solve a lot of our problems.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Sheehan.
Ms. Cruz, you're up. What question do you wish we had asked you?
What question?
And then we're going to have you answer whatever that question was. So,
a question that I wish you would ask me.
You have 2 minutes.
2 minutes, yep.
So, gosh, I really want to talk more about farming. Anything about farming really excites me. I know I mentioned Common Ground Collective and the TOP program. What I think is really amazing about this is most of us in our community, we have fruit trees in our backyards, virtually everybody, and it's such a variety of different fruits. So the farm that I'm a project manager for is out in Haiku, so the produce that we have out there is different from the property that I live on in Kula. So in Kula, on our land, we have a lot of longanberries and we have a lot of mangoes. Common Ground Collective comes and collects those for us and they sell them to the community. Out in Haiku, we have banana trees and mac nut trees. So I think that with these two programs alone, and there's other programs like Grow Some Good, they mostly work with school children, but because we have people who can consult us and teach us how to be better farmers, we can lean into these programs and become more self-sufficient. Sovereignty is a huge thing for us. We import about 90% of our food. During COVID, that went up to about 95%, which blows my mind because we have a year-round growing season. So there's not really a shortage of food, in my opinion. It's just, again, how we're managing our resources. And I know that in Haiku, so for us, I'm down Honopo Road on the farm that I manage, and Honopo is really famous for having to fight for their water rights. We don't really have an issue with water, but I know farmers up the stream who have issues with it, and other farmers out in Haiku, like one of my favorite farms, which is an agroforestry farm, Mala Okapono. They're in Haiku, and they're really affected by the water diversion. So the question I wish you would ask me is, how can we become more food sovereign? What programs are in place? And I have 15 seconds. I highly encourage everybody to look into the Foster Farm program from Common Ground Collective, and if you have a farm right now, the TOP program. Both of these are free, and they're excellent resources. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Sigimura, this is related to water. Rural residents and farmers seem to be powerless in their ability to get water meters because the Department of Water Supply says no meters. What steps can the council take to help residents to ensure a dependable flow of safe water for existing residents and for new meter recipients? 2 minutes.
Wow.
And make sure you answer it total.
So I've always said, for as long as I've been in this seat, that the water meter list has been top priority. That I meet people at the Upcountry Farmers Market. I'm there once a month, and people come to me and they talk about that. The problem is no source, right? So in years past, we had, we still had the same problem, but now we have a water director who is not afraid to say, I need to raise more money so that we can find water. And he has. Do you know that he raised your water rate? And we agreed last budget cycle, this budget cycle, and it's because he was honest enough with us and the community and said we need to raise water rates so that we can have more money, so that we can find water. In this budget, the fiscal year 25 budget that we passed. We put in $10 million in there for this department to go and find water. I will tell you that that is top of my list of what we need to do, because it affects everything. It affects us to have, our farmers. It affects our, housing, and you want to bring your children to live with you. I mean, everything connects to water. And so, therefore, that is a priority so that we can find more water. And then, do you know that the water meter list, we only put one new water meter on the list because we don't have source. So kudos to this director, because he's very honest. And everybody, come join our journey, because we're looking for water. I will tell you that there is water, but we got to spend the money to drill and find it, and we will do that. I mean, it's a priority for me. I'm going to stick by this department director so that we can find more water, because how many years do we have water shortage in the summer, and guess what? Last year we even had it in November, and it's just going to go on and on unless if we find solutions. I'm supposed to stop. Thank you, Sean.
Oh, great. Thank you very much. Obviously, water is a rather important thing up here in Upcountry, and it'll continue for a long time. Thank you both.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you. That's all the questions.
Wow. Good job. You should call me. You should call me. Good job. I love your format. I love this format.
Join us for TMDR, weekdays at 7 and 10 p.m. and midnight on Cable Channel 55. TMDR gives you the things you need to know, headline news from throughout Maui County. Join host Chivo Cheng Johnson Monday through Thursday and Patty Lee for our Aloha Friday edition. Join us weekdays for TMDR, the Maui Daily Report, at 7, 10, and midnight on Akaku, Cable Channel 55.
1, 2, 3, 4. Hey, Maui, don't miss the boat. Do yourself a favor. Get out and vote. I said, hey, Maui, don't miss the boat. Do yourself a favor. Get out and vote. Yeah.
Once again, elections loom large on the horizon. Election Day, November 5th, will be here sooner than you think. So get out there and exercise your right to vote. And don't forget to tune into Akaku channels 53, 54, and 55 on election night to enjoy our live election coverage. That's Tuesday, November 5th, starting at 7 p.m. Please make your voices heard.
Yugo, Maui Stream for Maui lovers, an all-new mobile app for your phone. Watch Maui's community channels live in HD. Find your favorite programs with custom playlists. Submit your own videos. Listen to KAKU 88.5. Available now on the App Store and Google Play. Maui Stream, 3 islands, 1 stream.
Welcome back, everyone. We have one more race for you, and then we have a surprise for all of you who stayed late. We have a surprise. Okay. So we are working now on the Haiku-Paia-Makawao Council seat, and we are delighted to welcome Miss Boone tonight. My name is Betty Plevny. I'm on the board of the Kula Community Center, and I have with me my esteemed colleague, Jim Caldwell, who's also a board member. So, Ms. Boone, all the questions are for you tonight. Ready? What is your evaluation of the ability of the present council to meet the needs of the Maui residents? You have 1.5 minutes.
my impression of the council, how they've done so far in meeting the needs of our community. I think that there is a bit of an unfair judgment right now. I think what the council had to face in the past year has been more than anyone expected, and I think it's perhaps a bit unfair to judge their performance, because I doubt most people run for office and expect to have the hugest disaster ever happen to their community. So that is my overall response to that.
A follow-up, do you have any specifics that you would like to dive into about the ability of the present council to meet the needs of Maui residents?
Well, I think one of the things is that, you know, not just the fires and all of the challenges that everyone really has experienced because of the fires, but I know that also there was quite a delay in the appointing of boards and commissions this year, and so that kind of stalled our government in working the way that it should have worked. To be prosperous and to be functional for everyone.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
The next question is, what do you feel passionate about? What are your personal priorities for improving the council operations?
Oh, I am so passionate about amplifying community voices. I'm a singer. I'm a voice teacher. Helping people find self-expression is really empowering. And even as a voice teacher, I am able to see how the work that I do with a client and the work the client puts in, just in our lessons, then translates out to the rest of their life, and they're able to speak up for themselves differently. I want to do that for the county council as well. I want to do that for our community. I feel like there are a lot of voices that have not been heard that need to be heard, and the focus needs to be on those of us that have lived here long term, that are struggling so hard to keep a roof over our heads, to keep food in our bellies and our children's bellies, and I want to be an advocate for them. I'm really, really passionate about that.
Is there anything specific that you might consider for improving on the council's operations? This is still within your minute and a half.
Improving in the operations themselves. Mm-hmm. That's an interesting one. I think that there needs to be more transparency. I think that's a really big one. I think that we need to give the community more opportunities to express themselves and be heard by the council.
Okay. Next question. What is the major issue in your council residential district of Haiku-Paia-Makawao that you would try to address, and how would you do it? You have 2 minutes.
There are so many. People laughed earlier or at another function when I said that the speed bumps upcountry are driving people nuts. But that's really, truly a thing with the way that it's degrading vehicles. Our coqui frog problem is a problem right now, really dramatically. And the houseless problem. There are so many people that are houseless right now, especially, and we're seeing it more and more and more. And instead of criminalizing them and punishing them for the situation that they're in, we as a community need to lift everyone else up. We need to have more pu'uhonuas, or, another type of facility that allows people to be safe and be unhoused. If that is what they choose to be, we need to provide mental health care. Something that some might find kind of an alarming thing is that we need safe consumption zones, in my opinion, which is a strange concept, and it's one that was brought up to me today. It reminded me of other programs elsewhere where people that are drug addicts, the addiction is treated where they are allowed to have a safe space to use that drug under supervision. And I know that sounds crazy, but I don't know how many of you have just read the article that came out about Pu'uhonua Onene and the drug use there and what is happening. And if people have an addiction, let's treat that addiction and not punish the person for having it. Take care of the person.
Could I ask a question about that? Because
Yes.
I think, did not Vancouver try to do that? Vancouver, British Columbia, and now they have now reversed their stance on that.
Have they? I know that there are other places. There are so many, trading out needles and different things that can be done to help people. I mean, the alternative is people dying on our streets, and that's happening right now. So what are the situations that put them on the streets to begin with? The fires have proven how quickly any single one of us can be homeless. So if you think about that, is that treatment that you would want to receive?
So
a
your
punishment?
time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So what question do you wish we had asked you? And then you get to answer it. You have 2.5 minutes for that one.
Okay. Oh, there's so many. I think a big one for me is housing. I am co-founder of the Maui Housing Hui, and the reason I got involved with that is because during COVID, my family and I were kicked out of where we were living, had been living for 7 years because the new landlords wanted to renovate. That left us in a position where we were desperate. There was a moratorium on evictions even then, and it's very hard to find a place when there's nothing available. So we ended up in a place that was for sale, and then for 9 months, I searched desperately for something else. So being a part of the Maui Housing Hui is something that's kind of ingrained in me, this desire to give our renters, advocate for our renters, and make sure that we have more rights than we do currently. Since the fires, Maui Housing Hui, we've worked really hard on educating and translating all of the governor's different emergency proclamations. I would like to tax non-owner occupied houses at a higher rate than we are doing now. I would like to see a portion of all of these luxury homes or average homes being sold for 1.2, 1.3 million. I would like our county to receive a portion of that sale and have that go into a fund either for affordable housing or to transition our sewage systems and to update our roads and all of the rest of it as well. One other thing, I would like for us to take advantage of FEMA's mitigation grants that are available. Water has been a big topic tonight. There is grant money out there, federal grant money for flood mitigation. We could, if someone were to spearhead it, get FEMA money to pay for creating reservoirs here, upcountry, and then creating the infrastructure to bring that water closer to all of these people that have been on the water meter list for so many years. It's possible, and the money is there now. So those are a few things that I'm passionate about. Once we get more water and more people off of the water meter list, they could build and we would have more housing for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have one more question to ask, Ms. Boone, but don't go away because we have a surprise for you after this. We have one more county race we're going to offer up to you. So don't go anywhere. Ms. Boone.
Yes.
If your opponent, Nohe U'u Hodges, were here, what question would you like to ask her, and why would you ask that question? You have 1.5 minutes.
Well, that's a hard one. I have nothing against Nohe as a person, and we share a lot of the same friends. And we live on an island. And I'm disappointed that she's not here. She wasn't here last time we did this together. She and I went against each other last campaign, and she wasn't there for that forum as well. I think one of my biggest questions right now is why the gates at Holomua Road that seem to punish the houseless for all of the fires that have happened there, instead of holding the landowners responsible for taking care of those fallow fields so that Paia and Kuau is not at risk. We just recently had an incident. That road is the tsunami evacuation route. And did we not just learn from Lahaina that the last thing we want when we are running from an emergency is locked gates? So that's a big one for me. Why not hold the landowners accountable instead of punishing the people?
Thank you. That concludes this panel, and please stick around.
Thank you.
Please wait one moment. We've got something that I'd like to add. One, two. Akaku, are you ready? Okay. In the preparation for this event, I made an effort to contact the representatives from West Maui. And unfortunately, I didn't realize it, that the gentleman who was sitting here, his house burned down. And so when I sent text messages to him, I sent emails to him, he was unable to receive them to get invited here. So he came all the way over here, so I feel it's absolute obligation on our part to make sure that he has an opportunity to speak to you so you get to know him. He's running for the county council seat that is presently being held by Tamara Pelton. She was unable to come today, but I do wish to ask him a couple of questions, not questions we prepared in advance, but let me ad-lib a little bit and he'll have to do the same. Why are you running for county council, and what are you passionate about?
Mahalo, everybody. Mahalo, God. And I know we're here for a long time, so I'm going to do my best to make it quick. In the 90s, I grew up in Chinatown. My memories are the smile on Miss Ching's face when I went to go get candy and harass her all day about talking questions, and going into the Fong store saying, oh, here's that boy again coming around with no money and hot dogs, and the smell and the taste of the Little Koi cheesecake, and the thimble berries that I know that are up here with the poha berries, and running across the cattle area and knowing which bull is going to come where my skin is about to fall off my boots, and then going to where the lava fields are. Kula is where my heart is. I'm running not only for all of Maui, but one thing I've accomplished really well besides owning businesses on Front and Prison Street, that's where my name came from, Lolo, is being a Maui resident and growing up in all these regions. And that's what I'm good at. And I'm not running for office because it's a job. I'm running because this is my home. And I feel that there's no other choices left for my family and for my classmates and for my children, the way things are going with our housing that we talk about, attainable housing, which is statehood, goes back to the Maui zoning codes and this water and all these things that I hear day in and day out. And living, when I heard 2018, I was in Waiakuli, moved to Lahaina Luna, and then that all happened. Well, I'm running because we need to do the expensive things and talk about and get the collaborations with the jurisdictions, and none of this, well, it's not my jurisdiction, I'm going to wait. We need our power lines, at least from Olowalo down. We need Kula. Like we hear a lot of things. We need to get these things right, sourced water. We're talking about, I hear water about coming out from the ocean. Maybe that's not the best idea. Maybe we could do catchment. There's a lot of things that are going. But yes, I'm running because I have a love for Maui and I have a love for Kula. And I'm going to be sitting at the table and aligning with everybody and talking to the people that don't care and the people that care so that we can all move forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
He does really good about slowly bringing in
Let me
the
ask
stuff.
the second question.
Yes.
I didn't introduce you, so let me introduce you. Lolo Aquintas, is that correct?
Yes, my first name is Lorian.
Lolo.
And Lolo came from when I built my surf shop, Maui Surf Culture and Surf School, and my tattoo shop, Maui Ink Culture, on Front and Prison Street. So everyone, all the kids and everybody will call me Lolo instead of Lorian. They're like, what?
Okay.
That's my name. Thank you.
Let me ask the second. Can you give some indication of your background, experience, education, so we'll know whether you're qualified and would make a good council member?
Yes. Class of 99 at King K. I worked about 12 years at TriStars with the sommelier classes, captaining. I've been in the hotel hospitality industry. My first job was when I was at 14 at Hawaiian Moon's natural food store. So I have a lot of restaurant experience. I was a manager at the fish pond at Kalepo Lepo for years, working with Kimokeo's Foundation and with Vene over there. We were teaching the youth and surf rider and doing all the Hawaiian protocols in our early 20s. And then I had a dream that I was always doing surf lessons in and out of high school. And I pursued that dream and started Maui surf culture around 2018 at Kamehameha Beach Park. I was working at Fisa Lele in the evenings. I had 2 boards in a truck, and I got more successful and got to a brick and mortar building, then opened up a tattoo shop and was able to take a risk to have Friday come every day and have over 24 employees to make sure they're getting paid, to make sure that my CPA and my accountants are getting their taxes and all their things done. I took that risk. I was in the parks. I went to all the meetings and to keep our surf school alive and showed that our surf schools is actually teaching responsible tourism and making a force of tourism good for our visitors alike and not damaging the reef, actually saving the reef and keeping a cleanup of our lifestyle. So my background is budgeting, been in Lahaina town with the community, working with private sectors, working with nonprofits, DLNR, creating programs for the kids so they could come and do jiu-jitsu, paddle canoe, paddle surf lessons, capoeira, and clean up and feel good about that. Thank you.
And one last question for you, Lolo. What question would you liked us to ask you that you would like to tell people about, something about yourself, your wishes, your programs, etc.?
Something to ask about myself?
Yeah. What would you us like to ask you?
How was my day? That's about it.
Okay.
Other than that, we're good. We got to get these. Everybody got to go home and eat. Thank you, though.
Very.
Oh, yeah, and I'm 43 today. Mahalo, you guys.
To you.
Thank you.
Dear Lolo, happy birthday to you.
Mahalo.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mahalo.
Mahalo. Appreciate you, everybody.
We have two more people who just want to say closing words, and we want to thank you all.
Wow, what a great forum. I'm really impressed with everybody. I'm so grateful to everybody who came and also to all the candidates, so many that we've never met before, and I'm really excited about the next generation of people who are going to be on our council. We have some tough decisions to make when we mark our ballot. So thank you very much. I want to actually thank our sound guy, Skylar, and also Akaku, who's doing a great job for us. We know we have people watching on YouTube right now, which is fantastic. And everybody else who worked together to make this a great occasion. So thank you very much. The food people want us to make sure you know that there is food. Please come and take all you want. Thank you very much.